Good morning. Good morning, Samuel. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I just turned my Zoom audio.
Good. Hi, Karen. How are you? Can you hear me well? I want to hear back from you guys to make sure this communication is going. Hi, Patricia.
Good morning, Diana.
Good Friday. Karen, can you test unmuting yourself and talking to me to make sure that it's all working well? And then let's everyone head over to the chat and give a little good morning.
Doing well, yeah.
All right, great. Karen, can you add your last name? Do you know how to change that? Or would you like me to do it? You muted yourself again, so I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear what you're saying.
Am I still mute? I don't know why you would have done that. Rename. Okay, I'm looking at rename. So I'm
The
Karen.
name, unless you change it in the settings, so that it always changes, then every time you connect, you have to change your name.
Yeah, this is the first class that I've had that. It usually always knows Karen Finch from Zoom or something like that. So
Is it, but yeah, are you connecting from the same device that you normally connect from?
yeah, although I cut a lot of things out. It's an old computer because my new computer has the Photoshop. So I stripped a bunch of stuff. It must have changed.
So maybe that's why something got changed there.
Yeah.
Anyway, who knows? All right, let me see. And is this Mike, perchance?
Yeah. Oh, yes. M.Lot2. Sorry, I'm on a different computer.
I recognize you. Do you know how to change your name, or
Yep.
should I change it for you?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll
great.
do it.
All right. Hi, Mary Ellen. And hi, Sharon. How are you?
Morning. Not too bad.
Oh, good. Well, everyone head over to the chat and give me a little hey ho. I'm
Oh,
here.
that's right.
Good morning. Whatever you need to do to register on the chat. Only one or two people have done it yet. Make sure to get yourself, it's kind of like attendance, a little good morning there. Helps me see later who was here. All right. Right. While we're waiting, has everyone had a chance to fill out the class survey? Just in case you hadn't, I'm putting the class survey link here in the chat for you guys to do it as we're starting the day. Hi, Colette.
Hi.
So, and if you filled it already, you don't have to fill it again, but I'm just adding it there so that it's ready to go. And then the other thing I'm going to put in the chat is the Padlet.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
There's the Padlet link. All right. And now one of the things that I want to point to while we're working, while we're waiting to get going, let me move this over. For some reason, my mouse is not connecting to my computer. I had to disconnect my computer to take it into school yesterday, and my mouse and touchpad are resisting the connection. So I'm working on my touchpad, which is hateful. I really hate working on the touchpad as my only mouse. So I'm just trying to get my I thought I could manage to get it to work, but it's not working. So I have my Wacom, but I don't find my stylus. It's like things are not. That's one of the problems of I started teaching at school again. Half the time at school, half the time I'm here. I'm doing some HyFlex classes. And I hate that everything gets disrupted when I disconnect. Anyway, oh well. It'll be here somewhere, but I don't know why my mouse is not connecting. That is driving me crazy. So I'm going to connect one that's a physical connection, which is not ideal, but I will do it. So give me 1 second. I was thinking it would fix itself, but it hasn't. So I am for a minute here connecting the
What'd you find out?
wired mouse. Okay,
Oh, hold on just a second. I may need to mute.
I just muted you, Mike, so you're fine. Okay, so hi Gerard. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, so guys, let's head over to the Padlet. I just put the link in the Padlet. If you just drive, please give me a good morning or something in the chat. Meanwhile, there's the Padlet link again that I just put in there, and I added again when you guys wonder why, because the people who join later, they don't see the chat that already happened. So I'm putting in the links one more time, okay? So that people can have, the first link I just put in is the Padlet link, and now I'm putting in the link to the survey in case you haven't filled it out yet. All right, so let me share my screen. Let's head over to the Padlet. Now, every morning, we're going to start by looking at the Padlet because that's where you're going to be posting anything that you do as homework. Now, last week, I didn't actually give you physical homework off the top of my head. I had a couple of other things that I asked you to do, and the first one that I asked you to do was to read the handout, right, that I gave you. So if you have read it, even if it's in the past because you've already done it, you're good. But if you didn't read it, um, please please let me know why. Like, didn't you find it? Or, and it's okay if you didn't read it. Life is what it is. I'm just asking you to read it before I work on it. But if you didn't read it, I want you to give me a no. And if you read it, to give me a yes, just so I know how many people in the class have absorbed the information in order to know whether I can continue. So, and it's not to make you right or wrong. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes we do things. Sometimes we don't. It's to know whether, so to say, whether or when I can begin talking about all of this. I'm looking at my admitting everyone else. A couple more people showing up right now. Okay, so it looks like anyone who said yes right now has read the handout. The one about the one that I'm sharing here, the article that's about pixels. So if you've read it, that's good. If you didn't get a chance to read it, please do so, but give me a no so that I'll know. But it looks like everyone's saying, most people are saying yes, so that's good. Okay, good. All right, so the reason I'm showing you this again, sometimes what we're gonna do is we're gonna have homework here that hopefully you guys will be posting. This time the work posted is the work done in class, or for people who weren't able to attend class, catching up to the work done. So one thing though that I do want to point out is that you can also do personal work with the examples I give. And so Shelley, who's been in my class before, has done that. Now she's not here yet, um, but she went ahead, and the work we did last week was just basically uh, replacing with a second layer. Now she's gone ahead and done it a little bit further, but she's explaining here and giving you this as an example of, as an example of something that you might want to do. So over the week as break. So she mentions, I cut my son's head out and put it on this photo of the magazine cover. And so here there's someone in the cover, and she put her son's face instead. I could not smoothly remove the hair from his face or make it look not Photoshop. How to do it more smoothly. Okay, so this is giving it a try. And if you look at her layers, she has the layer with the magazine, the layer with her son's head. Now, when you look over here, she took, this is the original photo. And then she did another one here where she explained what she did from class, which is basically different backgrounds. Um, it's interesting because she says here everything she did, and one of the things she says, she put in new backgrounds, different bodies, different heads, but she says, I even used AI to reverse aging. Look at that. And I did it all in this one. How do I stop the people from floating away? So here she's showing that she had this photo of this person, then this photo of this person. and the original photo was these two people. So she basically, from this photo, she put two different heads on, right? And then she put them in this place full of Oscars. Now, the question is, does it look real or not? And not necessarily real. We're getting there. But the main thing she asked at the end, how do I stop people from floating away? Do you notice down here that it looks like they're not standing, right? So we're talking about how do you keep that from happening? Well, on the one hand, just to be honest, if you look at this one here, we notice that she's there, but if you look at it, the one big difference between this one and this one, do you notice how there's a teensy bit of a shadow under? It's kind of hard to tell. You need to open your own, but there's a little bit of a shadow under the clothes, under the edge of the carpet, which over here has been cut out. And if we could look at the cutouts here, we could look at it better, but there's no shadow, and that's a dead giveaway. On this one, we can't really tell where the man's feet were cut out too well. Sorry, whenever I try to expand from Padlet, I can't. But there might have been enough to cut out, or if not, you have to create your own little fake shadow. So a shadow is a real big part of what gives it away that people are floating or not. And so sometimes you need to create that shadow. Now, in this case, this person came from that same carpet to this one. So it could have been cut out wider and just added it. But in this case, you would have cut out a bunch of black, so you would have to recreate it. So those are just tiny little details, but just in answer to her question is, how do you stop them from floating away? On the other hand, on heads, it's a bit harder, where you have to match skin tones, where you have to make sure that the heads fit the right position of the body and the shape and the size and things like that. And also, there might be some feathering needed to be done on the edges to make it look a little bit more real. In this case, the man's head looks a bit more matching. The color of his skin and his hands kind of match and whatever. And in here, it's a little bit like the head is a little bit like off kilter. That said, the whole point isn't to get things perfect. It's to try things, to give things an intentional use, and then to see what did or didn't work and ask me questions. Now, Shelly's not here. Those are just some quick little contents. And so anyway, so this is Shelly. This is a photo of her son, and then this is a different photo of a cover, and she took the photo of him holding a real fish and put it in here. And over here, what we're finding is a bit that same kind of strange. There's a shadow here that doesn't make sense if the sun is coming from the front. So there's just a little bit of that, but mainly it's the hair that doesn't have all the flyaways. It's like cut like with scissors. So we're going to talk more about selecting subjects and things like that to get that to work. But mainly it's the light in this case. So if you look at the body of this fisherman, right, where's the light coming from? And it's always about the light. You see how there's sun in front of him, and then there's a shadow under the fish. So the sun is coming from the top, but it's coming from this direction. And his jacket is in the light, and all of this is in the light, and then his face is not in the light. Okay, does that make sense, you guys? It's simply a thing. Now, the reason I'm pointing out this in particular is because Photoshop has just created a new filter. It's an AI that allows you to match the lighting. Now, this is one of the hardest things ever, to match the lighting. Like, you could have the best photo, and if you don't find a match in the lighting, it was very hard to fake it. And now there's a new filter in Photoshop that will do its best to match the lighting, and it is pretty good. So we're going to talk about that. Anyway, those are all things that are a little bit more advanced than day one, but we're going to get to that. But can you see now what's happening here as far as light? So you could have added a couple more flyaways on their hair, and it still wouldn't. That face is in the shade, and the fish is in the bright sun. So if we look at the real photo, this is the real photo of the boy. The sun was right behind him, and so he has light on his peeking over the edge of his shoulders, and yet the fish itself is not in the sun, nor is his face. So in here it all looks normal because it's real. So it was just the wrong either face to bring in or the wrong photo to put it into. That's all. Does that make sense? Now we're going to give it a try to use that filter. So whenever Shelly comes along, maybe that's an example that she can send me this image, and since she's worked on it, and we can, if she's willing to let us all use it, and that would be an example of, let's put the right lighting on it and let's see if that makes it look more real. Anyway, hi Rebecca, thanks for joining us. All right, so everyone that's here. So anyway, anything you guys post or put in here is really good fodder for me to work on with you guys in class. So don't hesitate. You don't need to put only things that worked. You need to put things that you're attempting, that you're trying, things that work and don't work, and that's how you keep learning. Does that make sense? But if you don't keep trying to make the right or wrong decision, then you don't get my feedback, then you don't get to move forward. So please use the Padlet as Shelly has to move forward. Other than that, the rest is assignments from class. So wonderful. And let's start with today's before I just start. Is there any questions that you guys have from anything we did last week? Anything you need to look into? No. Shamuel, are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, I stopped seeing you. Okay. I'm looking around because I'm thinking you're the only completely new one to this class today. I don't know where my other new people ended up. Everyone else has been, well, Karen. Okay, there we go. I thought there was I thought we had I thought we had 4 new people last week. I'll look at the roster. Okay, so I would like a reminder then, Shamuel, and Karen, what was your situation with your applications? Yeah, were you on VDI or did you buy it?
I'm
Oh, that
good. I found my old MacBook Pro and that runs everything.
you've got on your old stuff. Okay. And then Karen, are you on your own applications?
Yeah, I have it through another class.
That's true. That's what was happening. And it came through. You have it now. It's working.
Yeah, I
How
was
about
just concerned
Bridge?
because we had it last month and I didn't know if we were going to have it renewed in time for the class for this month,
it.
but it looks
You
like
got
that's happening. So
Okay, great. And then I thought, did you have Bridge also? Were you able to download Bridge? Someone who couldn't use Bridge.
Oh,
Was
that
it
was me, but I got it working.
got it working now? Okay, there we go. Okay, you're all running. And then there's the other person who kept trying to install it and was having issues with the files. That's the other person who's not here yet. Okay, got it. All right. So then okay. Now let's work on Bridge big question. Did everyone install did everyone download the class files? So give me a yes if you downloaded the class files. So remember that last week we were having an issue with the files weren't working. I put you all individually. The files are available to everyone and I asked you to download them over the week. So if you got them, give me a yes. If you said no, then run to get them. Let's go ahead and walk you through it really quickly. Let me share my screen. And for those of you who already have them, we're going to pull them up on Bridge. But for now, let me go really quickly through the process because those of you who said no are people who've done this before. So it should not take long. So we're going to go to my SVCC. Oh, I'm on the wrong, hold on. I have to reshare my screen because I went to a different window to be shared. And there we go. I had another window here that I need to close. Sorry, there's some other stuff that I was sharing that I need to get rid of. Okay. There we go. I have a bunch of different windows, some that I'm sharing, some I'm not. So now are you seeing perchance? I have a feeling it's not in the share. Yeah, it didn't get shared. So let me stop my share and reshare. Apologize. It's just that I've got a different window going here than what I need to share with you guys. I have the roster on one of the windows and I can't be sharing the roster, so I'm trying to make sure that I don't. And I'm going to put that window on the different screen, and that way I won't be able to share it. Okay, good. So let me share again. There we go. All right. Now we're good. All right, so mysvcc.edu, sign in, and we're going to go down to either Gmail. And I want to point out that there's a student here who constantly says that they don't have the Gmail link here. I don't know why on their page it doesn't show up. So although Gmail is a good solution, right? And that's the one I showed you before. I'm going to show a separate one in case someone ever comes here and doesn't find it. You can go all the way down to student resources. And when you click on student resources, then this other options point up and we're going to go to essential resources. It's like 2 long clicks. And then you get to this place where you can get to a lot of other stuff. And the reason I'm showing you this one also is because a couple of times some people ask me, well, how can I download other stuff? And you can get Microsoft Office for free, for example. So if you click on this link, you can go and get yourself set up, but you have to do it all with your Pipeline account, okay? And then LinkedIn Learning is how you access it, is access to a lot of tutorials for a lot of stuff that you can learn outside of me, showing you stuff. So anyway, that's just a place where you can get more stuff. And of course, you can get to, again, to Gmail or to the Google Drive. And it's the Google Drive that we're looking for right now, but I wanted to show you all these choices. So here's Google Drive. Before we had access it by going first to Gmail and then clicking on this link, now we're getting it through Essential Resources. And then here we go to shared drives. All right, if you want that repeated later, write this down. And at 9:22 a.m., I just show you an alternate way to get to this, right? So write it down and say 9:20, and then you zoom in 20 minutes into the recording and you go over that again. How did you get there again? Okay, so remember to take notes of the time that I say something that you might want to review, and then you'll have the recording of that I did rather quickly. Okay, so make sure to take notes. Today on September 5th at 9 a.m., she showed us how to get to essential resources or something like that. So then you go to that recording. Just trying to remind you how to use to your advantage the fact that you have a recording, even if you didn't miss the class. It's hard to go through, 3 hours of recording to find what I said. So just take note of the time that it is. And then you know that if the class starts at 9, you zoom in 20 minutes, boom, that's about when I'm talking about something.
Your YouTube video is pretty helpful too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When you would then go to the YouTube video, but what I'm saying is how to find when I talked about this.
Yeah, no, I understand. I was just saying for all your shortcuts, you did that introductory video.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, thanks. When I when I showed you how to get to these things in the video itself, and that link I sent you in the email that I sent after class last week, that's where I put the link of the YouTube video that Gerard's talking about, where I showed this. All right, so Photoshop shared drive. So then once you get in here, you have to get that first folder and right click and download it. Okay, now I'll have it twice, but anyway. So it's called Fall 2025 Photoshop Class Files. Now, why does that matter? Because when we go to Bridge now, we're going to have to find that folder to pick it up in Bridge. Now, before we leave the class files, I wanted to show you there's a couple of files that once you get here would be a good idea if you have a printer to open up and print. And one of them is this one, the brush tool size. If you double click and open this one, oh, I didn't mean to download it. I just wanted to open it first. If you open it by double clicking on it, then it's a shortcut that I'm going to talk about today. That has to do with how to increase and decrease the size of a brush and how to get it into increase and decrease the hardness. So that's a good one to have next to you until you learn it and remember it. And the second one, as you keep scrolling down, is this one that's called Photoshop Shortcuts. And again, it's other shortcuts that I keep using and teaching and calling out. And sometimes I call them out when I'm in class, but if you're alone and don't remember what was the shortcut, then if you print this and have it next to your keyboard until you learn them, this is another good one to print out. Okay, or at the very least do a screenshot right now since I'm sharing it. And you can look at it as a screenshot on your computer. So if you remember how to do a screenshot, Shift Command 4 for people who are on a Mac, and Shift Control, no, computer Windows icon, Windows key, Shift and S gives you a copy. And in fact, if you guys do that, it wouldn't be a bad idea. And I'm going to just do it right now since I just thought about it. I hadn't thought about it before. But we can go to, oh, I don't have the quick link here to the Padlet, do I? How interesting. Let me go to my own chat because I opened a new window and suddenly I don't have my Padlet chat. Give me a second because since I'm sharing my screen, my chat went somewhere else. And I'm going to get to the Padlet with the link that I gave you guys. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually, I guess I could load the file. This is just a quick little screenshot, and I'm going to put it there. Oh, it doesn't know me. Okay, I'm in a new. Just see. I created a new window persona, so it didn't know who I was. Okay, and I'm gonna make this one yellow so you guys know. It's not really a handout though, it's just a screenshot, but it might help you to have it here. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna pin that post. It doesn't consider me the user, so I can't pin it. Okay. All right, so if everyone's downloaded their files, let's go ahead now and head over to Bridge. Now in Bridge, whoops. By some of you already are there, that's fine, but this is the first time we open Bridge in this class because we didn't have the class files last time. So the way Bridge works, it's just a fancy, the way we're going to use it in this class at least, it's mainly a fancy window finder for your files, like the finder would be on a Mac, or the Windows Explorer would be for the file explorer would be for the PC. So we need to go find the files, and that's all it is. It's not a different app where you're uploading things or particular. Just this is your computer over here. And in your computer, you, like if this were the Finder window, you'd have to navigate to where you have the files, and where we have the files is in the downloads folder. So you happen to see that I have a choice for downloads folder here. But the thing is that when you first open Bridge, the downloads folder won't show up, right? You won't have that link. I put that link in there. So what you need to do is you need to go find your computer. So for Mac people, you might see your name there. My name is SBCC Teacher in this computer, but you might see your shortcut for your name. And when you do that and you click on that, you'll see here a bunch of files, one of which is downloads. And you might want to grab the downloads and just drag it over here, right? Just drag it into this black area, and that's what creates the link to the downloads, because it's in the downloads that we have these files. If you're on a PC and you click on My Computer, then similar to I think it says My Computer and a PC. Same thing happens. You'll see all these different choices, and one of them is going to be downloads, and you can then just grab and drag it over. So if you've all been able to drag your downloads over here to the left, what we're doing here is just creating a little favorites link so we can get to it quickly. It's not like you're moving the downloads anywhere. You're just putting it in a place where you can just click and just get to your downloads. If you were able to put your downloads here as a favorite, give me a yes. If you need help, especially if you're on a PC and what I'm sharing is looking a bit different, then give me a no and I'll give you a hand. All right. Cool. So Mary Ellen, let me go ahead and ask you to share your screen so I can help you with this. And anyone else who doesn't have it, the downloads link. And if you already have it because you had it from last class, give me a yes. That way I don't have to call your name. Okay? Because that makes it much easier. So Mary Ellen, Okay. All right. So go to bridge. Okay. Um, it does look like you did put your downloads there. I'm seeing them at least.
Yeah, but I'm trying to drag downloads over to the area.
Isn't
And
that it?
yes, that's downloads.
Okay. So then that's it. That's all I needed you to do right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I needed to make sure you could put your downloads in the shortcut. That way you don't have to navigate all the way in. Now, the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to look in here in your downloads for the folder that we just downloaded. And so you could, if you notice here by default, it says sort by file name. Some of you guys have one or two things in your download, so it's easy to do. But some of you guys have a lot of stuff in your downloads. So if you have a lot of stuff in your downloads, you might want to sort. Now, since I told you that the folder is called fall, then you would have to go down to the F's to find it. But another thing you can do is also, it's a folder. So another thing you could do is say sort by type, and then you could change that and then sort by type, and then all your folders will come up to the top. So go ahead and just test that to show what I'm talking about. Go ahead and click over here and say sort by type.
Where is the sort by?
Are you seeing you're not seeing my pink, it seems to disappear. Do you see my pink marking?
No.
Huh. No one sees it?
No.
That's interesting. I'm drawing something, and for some people the drawing sticks and some people
Oh, I see sort by.
see it now. Okay. Sort by, there we go. Oh, there, now they all suddenly appeared. Oh, because I was doing it so many times that it got 85 lines. Okay, so click on that. This is just for people to know a bit more about how to find things on Bridge. So yeah, click on that and then see the second choice is sort by type. And when you do that, a bunch of folders come up to the front. Now, I'm not seeing though the choice for that's interesting. I'm not seeing the choice for the fall folder, but I did see a little bit
I
earlier.
see it.
It's the third one in
Yeah.
Oh,
on the top.
it was so tiny. There it is, a third one in. So now, guys, I don't want you to open it. Once again, I want you to click it and drag it over here, because once you find it, we're just trying to make sure that you have a quick access to it. Okay. So fall 2025 Photoshop class files. We're going to just drag it over and drop it. Perfect. So now just click on that and there you have your class files. Boom, class files. Okay. Perfect. You're set and ready to go. Anyone else? Hi, Shelly. Thanks for posting all your stuff in Padlet. You might notice, by the way, Shelly is the person who posted all of those photos of all the work that she did during the week that we talked about. So you might have to watch the recording, the first 10 minutes. We talked about everything you did. Otherwise, I'll summarize it to you a little bit during break. But thanks for posting all that.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I had a little Orbi extension issue. It
Oh.
crashed on me, so.
Oh, okay. It's okay. It's not like since you weren't here, I didn't do that much, but it was talking about the shadow and the lighting and stuff like that. So we can get back to it. But I did wonder, there's a new filter. Let me just give you a quick, while people are giving me yeses or nos about whether their Photoshop is in the whether Bridge has their shortcut. I just wanted to show you something really quick as a question, and you're welcome to say yes or no. But in this one, I was mentioning that the only problem with this one is that the lighting is wrong. Like the sun is coming straight onto this fish, and in the original photo, the sun is behind your sun, so it just doesn't match. And I was wondering if perchance this is a file that if you are at all willing to share with us, and you don't have to, but that there's a new filter that a new tool that Photoshop created that matches lighting. And I know it's amazing, right? Up until now, you just had to suck it up. This doesn't work. Go find another photo. But now they have one where Photoshop does its best to match the lighting, and it's pretty magical. And I thought we might want to give it a try some other time. And I was explaining what the problem is, and there's the perfect example of that, right?
Yeah, I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, the
so
sun is
thank you.
behind him, and this fish is in the dark. Your sun is in the dark. The sun is behind them. See the shadow over the light over the edge of his shoulders. That's and the beautiful yellow tail of the fish because the sun is shining from the back. But in this case, all the sun is in front of this person, and so that's why they don't match, no matter how well or not you cut it out, right? Anyway,
Okay.
so if not, I'll come up with another one, another.
No, I'm happy to share it. No problem.
Okay, great. So now, is everyone got their shortcut to the Photoshop class files? I'm seeing yeses everywhere. Except, well, Shelley just got here, but Sharon, I'm not seeing an answer from you. Do you have the class files? On Bridge, were you able to click on Photoshop class files? Who else hasn't answered yet? Colette, I don't see an answer from you. Yes, Sharon. Okay, Colette, did you get the class files? So I was for the last year and a half or two, they've been remodeling room 3 where I teach in the Wake Center. And they finally remodeled it. It's finally up and running and it's beautiful. It's the most up to date. It's cutting edge technology. It's the most up to date lab in the whole SBCC. It's wonderful. And I'm just saying this to tempt you because at the end of September, like the last day this class is, last Friday I have this class, that same week, Tuesday, Thursday is the first week of my Photoshop that I teach HiFlex. HiFlex means that if you want to go to school, I'll be there and you'll be in the school. And if you want to stay home, you can be at home. All of you guys obviously have no problem being online because here you are. But if you ever have an opportunity or want to go and take that class and go be in person, the lab is open and that's what the next class is going to be. It's going to be HiFlex. So just letting you know that it's beautiful. But one thing I find is that when I tell everyone to say yes if they got the class file, so Shamuel, I don't see you saying yes. So can you give me a yes or no? What happens is that people who are in the classroom, there's no yes or no, right? So it's hard for me to look and see at the classroom at the same time on Zoom and at the same time in person. So I'm actually going to make little badges where they can switch it on their computer to say yes or no. That way I have that same kind of answer from everyone because it works really well. Otherwise, I have to stop at every computer and see how they're doing. And then I have to leave the Zoom, right? So it's kind of funny. I'm laughing at my yeses and nos. Yes, Sharon?
Oh, do you know in that HiFlex, that classroom,
Yeah.
when the students are talking in the classroom, can the Zoom people hear pretty good? How's the audio quality?
Yeah, we're working on that. I have a microphone that I know I look all connected. And then we were working on the positions for that for people to be able to hear it. And now and then they can hear it. And if a person speaks very quietly, no, because then it would pick up everything. So I'm asking, so what I do is I walk over to that student so that when, they ask the question, everyone can hear it at home. But I'll say, hey, did you guys hear that? Or I've asked students to be good at saying, we didn't hear her. And if people really aren't up to speaking loudly, I'll just walk to them or I'll repeat the question. So it's working out. It's working out. That's just what we've been doing. And it's great. And it's not like people speak up all the time, right? So it's like when they speak, it's easy. When they have a question, it's easy to either repeat it or to walk over to them. And if I walk over to them anyway, because usually I have to see what they're asking. And so, yeah, it's working out. It's pretty good. But I did ask to see if they can put in more of a surround sound microphone, and they're working on it to see if that's something they can do. But yeah, it's pretty good. So anyway, so here we are in the Photoshop class files, which everyone has said they have. So now, and I'm going to clear your feedback again. So here we go. Now, again, we haven't moved our Photoshop class files anywhere. If you were to open your Finder window or your Photoshop, sorry, your Windows Explorer, you would go into your downloads and there's the same folder. All we're doing is accessing the files, any part, wherever they are in your computer, to see them in here. Now, once we see them in here, we have a couple of goodies because now, no matter what kind of file it is, the computer will know, since it's an Adobe program, it just knows what program to open it in. So if you look at the files that are here right now, oh, and I have them as sorted by type. So the two folders are going to the top, but if I go down to by file name, then the folders will be in the middle. So just saying that if I go by type, the folders are at the top, and then all these are mixed up and they're harder to, you know, here I have my HEICs, here I have my NEFs, here I have my DNGs. So they're, once I'm done with DNGs, then it starts with JPEGs. When I'm done with the JPEGs, then it goes down to Photoshop. So that's what's happening in that mode. Versus if I put them by file name, then it's just ABC, no matter that all the file types are mixed. So let's just all choose one way so that we all have the same way of looking at it. So let's go to file, sort by type. That way we have the file set up in a way that has to do with what kind of files we have going here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to tell you a little bit more about the file types that we're going to be using in Photoshop, what's available to be used in over here on the bottom. You see a little like minus and plus and a little zoom, and you can kind of zoom these in or out to see them bigger or smaller. So depending on your screen, we don't need to see these really big in here. We just need to see, in this case, as long as we can see all the class files, that's good enough. But sometimes you want to see them a little bigger to see them a little bit. Now, what happens is that when you click on an image, single click, not double click, over here, you're going to see another also a little bit bigger image. But most importantly, on the bottom, and some of you have this on as publish or quick actions, there's other things you can have here. So go over to the word preview, okay, in case it's not in the preview. And then this is the stuff that we're going to be so if this is really big, then you see less of this. If you put your double-headed arrow, wait until you get a double-headed arrow when you hover, then you can make it smaller or bigger. Okay, so that's a bit of a bigger way to see your preview. But most importantly, I want you to be able to see the metadata, because this metadata is stuff that we're going to be using during class to understand more about what to do with this image. Now, if I want to read metadata a bit better, I can drag this one over here. So everything is very flexible, right? Now, if your window is looking completely different than mine, for example, if it's looking like that, or like this, or like that, it's just because these are different work spaces in which you can see the files. And just like in Photoshop, we changed our workspaces. So the one that we're using is Essentials. Okay, so let's make sure that everyone is working on the Essentials. Nothing wrong with others. Just right now, that's the basic one that I'm using for this class. Different ones fulfill different needs. But the one that I care about most is because over here, we're going to be teaching you to understand what this metadata is all about. Okay, so now the next thing that we're going to see on the left side is that I have some format. So say that I were to double click on this folder called color, then I have some examples of the color spaces and information that that I want you to know about color. When I want to go back, basically I just left that folder behind. So I can go up here and navigate back to the Photoshop class files. So I go into file formats, and then I back out into Photoshop class files. Okay. The next thing I want to know is from you guys who are PC people, are you seeing an image here? Or are you not seeing this one? Are you seeing like a little blank or a question mark? This is an HEIC file. And HEICs are files that up until last class, most people who are on PC could not see it. Okay, Moni is still not able to see it. Is anyone else who, okay, give me a yes if you're a PC person. Just if you're on a PC, give me a yes. So that I'll know who you are. Okay, Moni and Mike and Sharon. Okay, so, and Karen, okay, you kind of waved me down. Okay, so of all of you guys who are PC people, do you see the one called remove HEIC, or do you see a blank? Moni now said no, so go ahead and turn it back into a no, Moni. How about Mike, Sharon, and Karen? What do you see here, if anything? And if you didn't change it sorted by type, if you're seeing it by file name, and go down to the and see if you can see that file, but it's all switched to type. You don't see it either. Okay. So
Don't see
Mike,
it.
you're seeing it, and Sharon, you're seeing it, but Karen and Moni are not seeing it. Okay. And have you upgraded to the latest Bridge? That's interesting because Bridge is supposed to be set up now automatically for PCs to be able to read HEICs. And I was surprised last week that people didn't have it. And now you're still telling me that two of you can't see it. Okay. That said, I only put that as a sample to get this information. I actually left it there. So let me explain really quick what HEC is. High efficiency something something. I never remember acronyms too well, but it's basically an iPhone. If you take a picture with an iPhone now, instead of saving it as a JPEG, it saves it as an HEIC, which is supposedly more efficient, better, less compression issues than a JPEG. Everyone else's phones, and unless you have changed the setting, and all other cameras tend to send photos as JPEGs. And for a while, Bridge couldn't read it, but now supposedly it reads it, except for two people can't read them. So interesting. Okay. I guess I should look into it, or maybe one of you guys who is having that problem can look into say, why can't my Bridge read the HEIC, and see if there's some setting you need to shift, because that's one of the updates and fixes that they've had now for a few months. Okay. That's all. This was just a fact-finding mission. I don't care if you can or not, because I put that same file, I believe. Oh, I thought I had put it in both formats. I don't think I put it in the other format. Okay, then I might have to show you how to transform this into a JPEG, but I thought I had put it in two formats. Okay, I guess I put it only in one format. Well, under file formats, I put this in JPEG and HEIC. Okay. But over here I left it only in HEIC. Okay. All right. Then I have a couple of other formats. NEF. Does anyone know what NEF is? Just as a quick question. Nope. Well, NEF is a Nikon camera RAW file. A Nikon camera RAW file versus a DNG is already been converted to the Adobe RAW file extension. I didn't put in here a Canon, a CR2. If it would have said CR2, that would be a Canon camera RAW file. So everything that you see here at the beginning are RAW files, all the way down here till it stops saying DNG. And RAW files are pictures that you can take that don't get compressed. So just as a quick explanation, when you take a picture with your camera, basic settings, the way a camera comes, or an iPhone or an Android, and you do nothing else other than take a picture, it comes out as a JPEG normally, which is down here. Okay, these are all JPEGs. Or lately, if you're on an iPhone, it comes out as an HEIC. You would have to turn on the feature on your cameras or your phones that allow you to take a RAW file. Now, RAW files take up ridiculous amounts more space than JPEG does. So let's all head over to file formats for a second. And here it says sort by type again. So these are separate from each other, but it's the same photo. If I had said sort by file name, you'll see that these two are the same photo. So I'm switching it to sort by file name for a second, because this is exactly the same photo, but one is JPEG and one is HEIC. And if you look at them, oh, but this isn't an original JPEG, so that doesn't count. It's one I made. Anyway, but if you look at the same photo over here, it's showing you a little bit of information about these photos. I'm going to go over here to this place to show you. And it's showing you that the top number is how many pixels this image is made out of, 4,000 by 3,000. And when I click on this one, exactly the same, 4,000 by 3,000. And yet, this one's only 2 megabytes, and this one is 6.5 megabytes. Okay. This one doesn't give me PPI information, and this one gives me 300 PPI information, sRGB. So there's different information for each one. And it's just because it's a different format of the same photo. And my camera took this photo in 2 different formats, okay? And one is much bigger than the other. So that's one example. That said, there's other JPEGs that can be smaller, but showing you an example of what a difference knowing and understanding the metadata makes. But that said, it's the exact same amount of pixels. Sometimes you can transform one format to another seamlessly. Other times you can't. Let me head back to the Photoshop class files now. Let's go back to sorting by type. And let me clear that pink. Well, I don't need to clear it because it's in the same place. So now when I click on any of these files that are raw, right? They're way bigger. See how this one's 22 megabytes, or this one's 12 megabytes, or 15 megabytes, 19 megabytes. So these files are much, much bigger. Before we saw things like 2 megabytes or 1 megabyte. And now we're talking, you know, huge numbers here in comparison. And that's what's up with, you don't want to willy-nilly set your phone to take raw files unless you really know that this is a photo that you want to work on in Photoshop. Because if Photoshop, a raw file necessarily needs to be post-processed, because usually the camera doesn't do anything to it, which is good and bad. If you just quickly want a photo and you want to be able to share it with people, and you click on it in a photo and you print it or you send it, what's happening is that the computer, the phone, has already added a little bit of warmth, a little bit of sharpness, a little bit of focus. It does a little bit of post-processing to it to turn it into a JPEG, and it compresses it. So it makes it smaller. Okay, so this is a photo taken in Photoshop, sorry, in my camera. Any of these that are here that have been taken in my camera, they are just, oh, here's another example of the JPEG here, a photo taken straight here. This one was just taken by my camera as is. I've done nothing to this photo. And it's a JPEG, and it's 7 megabytes, but it has been compressed to become 7 megabytes versus, say, one of these that is a raw file. And a raw file isn't compressed, so it's many more megabytes, but it also hasn't been post-processed. That's the main feature of it. So all the pixels are there for you to do whatever you want. So if you're gonna post-process it, it's gonna have more richness for you to work with, but also it needs to be worked because it's usually flatter. If you compare one or the other together, usually one looks readier to go, which is the JPEG, right? Because the camera has done some processing on it. But when you then want to work on it in Photoshop, it's been clipped at the edges. It's already been scrunched, and so it's lost some of its power to be modified by you because it's lost some of its pixels. So if you had the raw file of that moment, you could process it better, especially when you're in high contrast lighting situations and stuff like that, where you want everything that you have for quality purposes. So that's the advantage of a raw file. Mary Ellen?
Yes, I don't have the descriptors underneath the thumbnails. I didn't know how to get them.
Okay, let me see. View. It's interesting. Mine shows up automatically. I've never checked to see how that labels. Huh. Can you just for a second, let's go this and do a reset of your essentials. Click on go to the word essentials and see these teensy little lines that are there. Click on that and say reset to saved layout, because that's just an automatic. And if that doesn't do it, then I'd have to look into it.
That did it.
That did it? Okay, good. Because automatically the names should be pointing up. Okay. Cool. Thanks for asking. You definitely want to have information of about the file formats. Okay, so that's it right now for all I'm going to explain for now about Bridge. The other only thing I want to say is that if you set up open a JPEG in any computer's Finder window or Windows Explorer window, and you double click on it, say that I would open a Finder window right now, it will not open in Photoshop. It will open in a preview or in, you know, a Windows viewer. It is not an Adobe program. But since you're in Adobe Bridge, if you open a JPEG, the JPEG is going to open up in Photoshop. So let's click on this tulip field and double click on it, and automatically it opens in Photoshop. Because Photoshop is the program amongst all of the Adobe programs where you are supposed to work with pixel-based images. And so by doing that, it opens up in the program that can handle pixel-based images. Now, if some of you guys have taken, or if you take my digital design techniques class, in the class files, I would have other types of photos in there and other types of images in here, sorry. And I will have InDesign files, Illustrator files, you know, if you have videos or what audio files, and you have the audio program, if you have Premiere, it'll open in Premiere, like a video will open in video editing programs. It'll open in whatever program it needs to be opened, as long as those programs are installed in your computer. Does that make sense? Because it knows where to direct it. If you have an InDesign file, it'll open in InDesign. If you have a JPEG, it'll open in Photoshop. If you have a PNG, a PSD, so over here's what we did last week, okay? We created, with the Chameleon, we created 2 PSDs. We created the one that we had it on top of the Chameleon and one that was in between. So let's just for a second, open the Chameleon layers. And oh, you guys might not have it in the same folder because you just downloaded these and you might have put the photo that you made in a different folder. So if you
Before
see,
you go, sorry, before you go, I noticed that sometimes you have JPEG and sometimes it's JPG. Any
yeah.
difference?
Here it is. Here's a JPEG and here's a JPG. No, and sometimes it also shows up in uppercase JPG. And no, it's just different designations of the same thing. So I don't know why. Some people, some cameras do this. Like this is a photo taken by an Android camera, and it saved it as JPEG versus, and if you want to look at the camera data, in this case, it doesn't seem to have it because this one was texted to me. By having it texted to me, it lost, sometimes depending on how people text things, that you can strip it of its information or not. But I know the person who took this photo, and so I know that they have an Android phone. And I guess the way that phone set it up as JPEG versus JPG, it means exactly, it's Joint Photographers Graphic something is what it stands for, but Joint Photographic Group or Joint Photographers Group or something like that is what the JPG stands for. And just to read it as JPEG, sometimes it gets written that way. The computers don't make any difference. They understand both as JPEGs. So yeah, it's weird. Most extensions have to be exactly a certain thing, but that's the only one that has a couple different versions of it. It's so old. It's been around for so many years that it's from before systems were trying to match how I don't know if you remember if you were using computers, but talking about 10 20 years ago, where there was no compatibility. If you had something on a Mac, you couldn't open it on a PC. If you had a PC, you couldn't open it on a Mac. Before things started to be compatible, they even had different names. But JPEGs have been around since that time, and so they have different ways of having it being written. But now all computers can read them no matter what. So yeah, good observation, but it's the same thing. All right, so now let's go ahead and we opened the tulip. If you have your Chameleon handy, open it up. If not, because the Chameleon is one that you might not have right now in your Photoshop class files because you did it without the Photoshop class files. I had saved it in there, but you guys hadn't. Then what you might want to do is go into to your computer's file, open recent, and then go find your Chameleon from the open recent in Photoshop. So go to Photoshop first, and then say File, Open, Recent, and hopefully it'll be there wherever you had saved it to. It'll be the file that we worked on last week. And you might have saved it to a different place. You might want to now save as and put it into these Photoshop class files. Let me know when you have the Chameleon open. Now, if you weren't here and you didn't work on the Chameleon, that's fine. I just want to make sure that everyone has, if they did make it, that they have it open. If you weren't here and you have worked on a different file that you layered, then go ahead and open that one. I just want something with layers. Give me a yes once you have that Chameleon open. Now, wherever you saved it to, your computer should remember it in the Open Recent. And then what you can do is do a Save As, right? And then once you do a Save As, you can go ahead and head over to your Downloads folder, right? And find in your Downloads folder, find your Fall Class Files folder, right there, Photoshop Class Files, and then resave it into this one so that it now saves itself into the same class files. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And if someone needs a hand with that, I'm happy to help you figure that out. Okay. I'm going to wait until everyone says yes, or until people ask me for help.
Hmm.
I'm thinking that my Photoshop, it's occurring to me that I have a different,
Diana,
yes.
so I'm working on I'm working on a laptop now, because I'm out of state.
Mhm.
And I know I've saved the Chameleon on my other computer,
Oh, okay. Well, it's not a big deal.
but, okay, I'll just open it then.
Just, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're in
Okay.
photo. It was just me trying to say those of you who have it, and if you're in a different one, we're going to work on a different image. But so
Oh, okay.
make sure people know how to resave this one back into the right folder. That's all. It's just so that you have all your class files put together. Yes, Mary Ellen?
I'm not seeing how to save it to the class files. I've
Okay.
done save as.
Okay, so go ahead and share your screen. It's always easier to just show you on your own computer, and then everyone else can follow along. And a lot of this is file management, guys. In the Mac classes, I teach file management. So if you have any
Oh,
issues
yeah, no, I
more
wouldn't
about
have.
file management,
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you take those classes. So you have to go find your downloads, and your downloads right now is over here. So click on your downloads. Yeah, and then there's your Photoshop class files. Cool. And now you say save, and that's it. It'll be saved into your Photoshop class files.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, stop your share, and off we go again. All right, looks like most of you have saved as and put it in the right place. Let me clear your answers. And here we go. All right, let me share my screen again. Okay. So now let's go ahead, and one last thing about Bridge is that if you want to see something bigger, then you can just hit your space bar and it fills your screen. And then you can look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's the one I wanted, or no, that's not the one I wanted, or whatever you want to do. Okay. Takes a little bit of time to open up, and then it closes up again. And there we go. All right. So the other big difference between a DNG or an NEF or any raw file that you have. Now, why did I say Canon has one extension, Nikon has another extension? Because for all raw files, all extensions are invented by the camera manufacturer. So over here in our class files, I have a folder, a file called raw file formats. And so different Canon manufacturers, so like a Canon will do a CR2, a Nikon will do an NEF, Okay, so these are all examples of depending the brand camera that you have. Now, what I don't have here, and I should add, is that if you do it in an iPhone, it gives you a DNG. But that's because Apple has adopted the Adobe extension. It's not that it was original from Apple. They just adopted it, and some other manufacturers are beginning to do that too. There's a technical difference in the background of a raw file if it's a DNG or not. So it turns it into one file versus two. I don't want to get deeply into that right now, but if you take a raw file with a Canon camera, it really gives you two files. With an Nikon camera, it gives you two files. And if you then save it as a DNG, those two files get put together as one file. I always think about it, you know, those Tupperwares that that are divided in the middle so you can put like salad and sandwich, right? And you close the top and it's one container holding both files. So a DNG is one container holding two files. So there are still two files in there. But if you are taking it with a Nikon or Canon, you basically have to remember to bring your salad and the dressing, you know, you have to bring two things to work, that kind of thing. So that's really the technical difference. It's a little bit deeper than that, but that's a quick bit example. Okay.
Diana, does Leica use one of the other formats, or do they have their own extension?
We can look it up. I don't have every example here, but what's the Leica raw extension? And oh, they're beginning to use DNG. I told you some files are beginning, some competitors are beginning to use DNGs. So there we go. The raw or RWL, the Leica raw image format. So now I don't know which is the right answer. I'd have to read it.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how old your camera is, or if you've
Yes. So it either RWL or DNG. I'd have to go in there and really look it up, but yeah.
Thank you.
It's, Panasonic and RAW. So this was just an example of some. I can bring some others, but yeah. Okay. So yeah, good question. So basically, yeah, grab whatever brand your camera is and just search, right? And then you'll find out, because I don't know all the formats of the entire world, but I'm going to add that one, and I'm going to add the iPhone DNG. Anyway, so back to Bridge. When I mean that a file that's not a DNG has two files, you're like, well, but I see only one. What do you mean? This is an NEF, it's a Fisherman, I see only one. Not that you need to, because the last thing you want to do is to access that XML file. You really don't want to access that XML file. It's the XML file is that companion file to this. But if you ever wonder why I'm seeing only one, if you go over to View and say Show Hidden Files, and you select the hidden file, let me go back to file name, then it appears. Where's the XML? I might have disconnected it when I put it up in here. I might not have its XML file. Because I uploaded them up to, you know what? I uploaded this up to Google Drive, and I might have left the XML file behind. Okay. I was going to show you how they show up if you show hidden files, but let's hide show hidden files because you don't really want to see hidden files anyway. But I was trying to show you, for those of you who do have some of those in your own computer, that's how you would see them. But the whole point is you shouldn't be seeing that extra file. What happens in Bridge when there's an XML file inside of the container, you'll see these little, how do you call it? These little, I'm having an issue with this word. There's little icons right there. See this little icon there that has like little sliders? Some have them and some don't. This DNG doesn't have them. This does.
Hamburgers?
I guess it's a little icon of little sliders, yeah. And so it means that this file has already been worked on in Photoshop. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger in Camera Raw. And if you look at this image right here, it's saying that it's been worked on, right? So you're like, well, what did it used to look like? Well, let's see. If you want to start from zero again, is everyone finding this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, So go find your cheesy reflections. Hold on, because Zoraida just is joining us right now. Hi, Zoraida. Can you hear me? Hello, Zoraida. You're muted, so if you want to talk to me, can you unmute yourself? I see that you've joined us on your phone.
Yes, yes, I am trying in my phone. Actually, I am in, I guess, in Puglia Airport, trying to get that flight to Rome.
Okay, you mentioned that
I'm
you
so sorry. Yes.
oh, that you had mentioned you were going to be flying, and thank you for connecting. That's great.
Okay.
Anyway, that's fine. Can you remind me your last name so I can put it in your name for a second?
Yoneyama, Yoneyama. I am sending you in the chat.
There we go. I put it in the chat. All right. Well, thank you for doing thank you guys. She mentioned she would be doing that. She told me last week she would be visiting. You know how I said, do your very best to connect from wherever you are, just so that you can then, when you catch up with the recording, you can still get attended. So that's what Zoraida's doing. And she had mentioned she would do that. And thank you. Wow, from all the way from Italy. Thank you for connecting, and have a good flight. Anyway, all right, so now I muted you because there was sounds from the airport behind you. So if you have anything else you want to say, please unmute yourself again. But other than that, I'm going to continue with the class. So thanks for popping in. All right. So back, you guys, to the cheesy reflections here, where this one has already been worked on. And if you want to first, before we undo the settings, if you want to click on the space bar to see this image in big, go ahead and do that. And you'll see that there's an image of a cheese storage, so to say, in a cheese store, not a factory. It's a store that has cheese from everywhere. And you see a little bit of a reflection there. You see that? Okay. Now, this one here says it's already been worked on. So let's go ahead and take away that work. How do I bring it down again? Is by hitting the space bar again. Okay. So now I'm going to right click on that little icon. Just do a little right click. Oh, and I don't have my, right click. And then we're going to go to develop settings. Okay. And then we're going to clear all the settings, or we can go to camera raw defaults, but let's just clear all the settings as if it's never been worked on. Okay. Clear the settings. So now it's gone. And now when you want to see what the difference was, hit the space bar again and look at how much reflection there was originally. There's a huge reflection on this image. And that's me having applied one of those new filters that Photoshop has to get rid of reflections. And that was pretty amazing, wasn't it? It left only this little bit that's here, only it did a better job at clearing it up. But this is the original photo of that image before it had been worked on. And in fact, I think I had done a bit of cropping too, I don't know, but mainly it's the reflection. So now we're back to 0 on that one. You see that? So go ahead and head over to all the ones that have a few sliders that have been moved. And let's right click and go to develop settings and clear those settings. And in some of them, there's a lot of changes, and others there's not a lot of changes. Here's one more, the CR HDR DNG next to the cheesy reflections also has one of those developed settings. Let's clear the settings. And now we have cleared all of the, I know here's one more, the remove thumb also has been opened. And to say the truth, the only one that had any work done was the reflections. The rest, I had just opened it in RAW. And so just by opening in RAW and closing down, it assumed that something had been done, even though really the rest were pretty much native files. The only one that had something done to it was this one. All right, so has everyone cleared all their settings? So now when we do something in one of them, we're going to be able to see that we're going to have our own little sliders, that it means that we've worked on them. Okay, I'm going to zoom down a little bit again so we can see all our files.
Diana,
Yes.
with the Canon camera, you have the ability to do both RAW and to capture both RAW and JPEG.
Yeah, so when
Do you
you
see any reason to capture the JPEG?
yeah, so here's the thing. And you can do that also in your I believe you can also do it in your iPhones. I'm not sure, but for sure you can do it in big old DSLRs. And you know, when you spend a bit of money, uh those cameras have the possibility when you click, you get both options, right? You have a DSLR that can spit out JPEG and DNG. If you have enough storage space to keep both and you keep both, then go for it. But remember, you're now
okay.
keeping two photos at the same time. Now, why would that be available? Because it's really developed for professionals who are, you know, out in the field doing photos of something that happens in the moment, and they need to send that photo immediately to their publisher who's going to post it, and in 30 seconds it's going to be online, and they're going to get that JPEG, right? Because you're not going to sit there and do a lot of modifications and post it. This is like breaking news, right? And so then you have both versions. But in reality, if you do it because you're not sure if you want to work on that photo later, go for it. But then don't forget that if you're sitting around just taking pictures of your kid's birthday party, you might not want tons of huge photos of that. On the other hand, you're like, you know, I'm the grandfather watching all these kids play, and there's some really cool photos there that I'm just sitting there taking really nice photos of kids playing, and I want to make one of those be a great portrait. Go ahead, don't have the RAWs, and then you get rid of the rest of them. You know what I mean? You keep the JPEGs for the memory, and then you keep the RAWs for the ones that you want to process later. But if you start keeping everything in both and you keep a lot, then you just have duplicates of everything in big file. So just be careful with that, but that's all. A lot of the times when you take out your big camera, you're trying to do real photos. You're not just going on a little, you know, you probably are not photographing the donut that you had for breakfast anyway, like you would with your phone. So it kind of, just because you have that camera out there, you're probably doing photos that you want to work on later. So you're probably okay doing it in RAW. But yeah, that's a good question. All right. So now, okay, so that's a lot of information about file formats and what we're going to be doing with them. Now, you already saw, let's go back into Photoshop now. And when you go down to your dock and click on the PS. So now let me share my entire screen for you guys for a moment to show you something that's important for you to know. I have my Photoshop sitting right on top of my bridge. Watch. When I click on bridge, it pops in exactly the same spot. You see that? And in fact, when I click on my Safari, it puts out in the same spot. I have all my images, my apps in the exact same spot. What things I don't want you to be doing is that when I say go from bridge to Photoshop, is for you guys start moving bridge around, and then you have Photoshop over here, and then when it's time to go to bridge, you move it in, and then you move Photoshop around, and you know what I'm talking about? 99% of you guys are doing that. And then when you bring it in, suddenly you're like, I can't find things. Why? Because you left partly the tools are out there and you're trying to work on the tools are not there. So please make sure to not have that. Like, you can work on all these one on top of the other. You have to use your dock efficiently, and your dock on the PC is called the task manager, but it's the same thing. You go down to your task manager and you just click bridge, Photoshop, bridge, Photoshop, bridge, Photoshop. In this case, Safari. You just choose what you want to show at the time you want to see it. Does that make sense? Because it's much more efficient. And by the way, if I'm in Bridge and I open a JPEG, I'm going to go open another JPEG just to open it. And I'm going to go open this one and double click on it. It pops in Photoshop. So what opened is Photoshop, which was right in front of Bridge. When I want to go back to Bridge, I go back to Bridge and I open the next one. Does that make sense, you guys? Just for efficiency's sake. So everyone, if you've been able to go from back and forth, please go ahead now, put put both your programs on top of each other. And if you have a third or a fourth one. And next thing is, if you have a ton of files open, a ton of apps open, close all the other apps. These apps take a lot of energy to run. Photoshop is a beast, and you don't want to have 20 other things open. So on a Mac, you can tell if you have other things open if there's little dots underneath them. So that means you have other stuff open. Like I have Excel open here in the background with a roster. But if you have, bunches of other things, you're in class, you don't need them, just close them up. And then the last thing is that if you do have your Safari open, because I told you to open it so that you can have the Padlet open and the class files open, make sure not to have 8,500 tabs. Some people literally have 20 tabs open, and all of those are taking up juice from your computer to run at the same time. So I'm going to close this one that says, what's the Leica raw extension, raw file formats, and I'm just going to leave the ones that we're talking about, which is the class handouts and the Padlet. Just telling you how to make your, because we're going to start using Photoshop now, and it does start putting some more constraints on your computer when you start doing that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reshare just my images now, so that you don't have to see that much more when you're sharing. But here, and I'm going to close this one. But let's go back to the tulip field that we opened up at the very beginning. And if you didn't, then go back to Bridge and double click on the tulip field, and it'll open up in Photoshop. All right. So now, after all that talking, if you have placed your programs on top of each other and you're learning to use your task manager or your doc and you're able to do that, give me a yes, because that's so important for efficiency, for getting good at your computer, and also for when people share their screens. One of the hardest things for me is when they can't find something, and it's when they share their screens, and it's because half of their program is missing their tools because it's out of reach. And it's like, just move it in, and they're like, what do you mean? Just move it up, you don't see the tools, and it's hard to explain. But now you saw what I meant. You don't need to have your programs be filling everything. Okay, now you don't need to have them as small as I do either. I have them small because I want them to share smaller on your screen. You can have them fill your window as much as possible. But if you're also watching me on the same screen, you need to have them off of where I'm giving the examples. Okay, so it looks like most people have been able to do that. All right, that's great. Now, last week, we did this layers thing where we saw that we can move things around independently, and that, we have to select the layer before we need to move it. That's if you turned off that the auto select, and you had to go over here to move the other chameleon and stuff like that. So we worked on files pretty much talking about when you separate, like the compositional, or the composite is what we do here, collaging, so to say, of files. Now, many of you guys are never going to do that. Many of you guys just want to fix your photos as is. You're not going to be putting your son's head on a different image the way Shelley did, which is that was an example, right, of that. But a lot of people need to fix things that are not working on their image. So to fix things that are not working, what we're going to do in Photoshop is we're going to use adjustment layers. So, and right now, it's not like nothing's not working in this image. It's just that we're going to learn how to use an adjustment layer with this image, to then try to use it also to fix things. But the most basic adjustment layer that we're going to learn is going to be a global adjustment layer, meaning it's going to affect every single thing in this photo. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the colors of this image. So if I head over here to my layers, what we're going to do is we're going to head down to this little round icon here. And we're going to click on that. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose this word called hue saturation. Now, there's many places where to get this from, so I'm going to show you this really quickly. This is the way we've been doing it for, I don't know, 20 years. And when you click on that, you should see over here, for some of you who have a small screen, you're actually going to see it you're going to see it on the side right there. If you have a bigger screen, you'll see it inside this panel. What I mean by that, you might be seeing it like this, like popping out like that. That might be one way to see it, or you might be seeing it in here. It doesn't matter. It's the same panel. Okay. And for those of you who are accustomed to the hue saturation that we've had for years, it's changed a little bit. The way we've used it for eons, for people who've already done this for eons, is you would grab this hue saturation and you would move this slider and everything would change. Everything. It's a global change. So if you've been able to do that, just hold on, give me a yes. And now I'm going to show you how it's changed and the different ways we can use this feature right now. But as long as you're able to do that, that means you have an adjustment layer up and running. So give me a yes to that. And down here in your layers palette, we have a new layer. Only as opposed to here where our new layer had more pixels, more material, more stuff. In this case, this is a layer that all it does is adjusts whatever you see underneath. So this is an adjustment layer. And it's saying, okay, whatever pixels you're seeing down there that looked one way, now make them look the way I'm making them look in here. So if I turn this little eyeball off, then the original photo is still there. So this is a non-destructive adjustment, non-destructive modification. Does that make sense? Because I can turn this little eyeball on and off. Now I can also keep changing it and go back up here and now change it that way or this way or whatever. So I could have it off forever and never get rid of it. And then one day go, you know what, today I want to see them in a different color. And you turn this on again and boom, then you see them in a different color. Now, none of this that I'm doing here is particularly attractive. It's just showing you hue means color. Okay. So now let's go pop it back into the middle. Let's do a double click on this thing and it jumps back to 0. And so now this hue saturation is basically doing nothing because I have not flipped this wheel. And I'm like, what do you mean a wheel? This is a line. Well, let me show you in our class files in Bridge. One of the things that I had shown you, sometimes my, when I'm sharing my screen, my Bridge doesn't want to flip over. Oh, I need to stop my share and start again for it to, give me a second. I don't know why it does that. When I'm sharing my screen, but it does it sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Bridge. And remember that I had a thing called color over here, a folder called color. Let's double click on the folder called color. And I have some things here that have to do with how color displays on Photoshop. But the one I want to show you, and I don't need to open it, just select it and hit the space bar so you can see it temporarily if you want, or just look at mine. This is what I mean about when I talk about the color wheel. So in the theory of color, this is kind of how colors are created. And in fact, you have like the primary colors are across from each other. Here's red, blue, yellow, green, they're opposites, secondary colors, a whole bunch of stuff. But basically, this is the order in which they always show up. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the way that rainbow colors show up too? And is that where originally it came from? Someone might know that. I think there's an order to how rainbow colors, and I think it's what originally these colors got set up as. Colette, you're nodding yes or no? Oh, you're just nodding. I didn't know. Maybe you knew that. I don't know. I'm gonna back off on that because I don't know what I'm talking about. It just had as an thought. Anyway, but the rainbows do always show up in a particular pattern too. I just don't know if it matches the color wheel. Anyway, so here's what I mean by the color wheel. Imagine if this was spread out starting on the red, and then you saw each one of these colors, but you saw them on a straight line. Oh, let me let Mike come in again, who had dropped out. Okay. If you were to see this on a straight line spread out, that's what's happening when just think about it. It goes red, blues, green, yellows, right? So now I'm going to go back to Photoshop and look at this color wheel. And if you see, it goes red, yellow, green, blue, pink, red. So it goes from red to red, and it's basically you are spinning the wheel. When I say spinning the wheel, it's like you were really grabbing that and it's doing that thing again where it doesn't let me show you Bridge again, where it lets you like if you could like spin that wheel and something would be changing, then whatever was red, I can't believe I have to stop the share to keep sharing Bridge. Every now and then Photoshop Zoom does that to me and then it stops doing it. Takes time. Okay, so imagine that any flower that is red, if this were to be like a filter put in front of that red flower and I were to spin the wheel, then that red flower would turn green if I spun it, half a turn. But then if the red flowers turn green, then what used to be a green stem then turns red. Does that make sense? Because you do like this shrink, and then whatever was blue turns orange, and whatever was light green turns pink. Does that make sense? It's like that's what I mean by, so everything is globally changing.
Sort
So
of
now,
like a photo kaleidoscope.
kind of like that. Yeah. So that's what that's what this is doing. It's making things that are green change color identically to things that are red that are turning blue. The green is going red, and it's because the wheel is being spun, and so everything is changing at the same time to the other side of that wheel. Does that make sense? All right. So if we double click on that, now the way that has changed. So the new thing about this tab right now, this hue saturation tab that we've used for years that way, and we would have to isolate colors and mask and do a lot of masking, is that now you can choose. So what if I only want to choose and change the reds? So the colors that appear over here, if I click on this red, now only my red is going to change, but be careful because it might think that only these flowers will change. And let's see what happens. If I now grab this after clicking on the color red and go to the right or to the left, technically only the red is changing. But if I look at the images, it looks like something more than my red is changing. It looks like the yellow is also changing. What do you guys see? And why would that be? Because there's a lot of red in this yellow too. Let me zoom in a little bit and look at how much red is in these yellow flowers. This is a very orangey red. So right now, if I want to change the red flowers, I can't help, but it's also changing the yellow, and in a little bit, it's also changing the pink. Does that make sense? So how do we constrain that? How do we change that if I really only wanted to change the red flowers? Well, first of all, by the way, one thing I wanted to show you is that when you do that, look at the color red. It's showing you that what used to be red now turned purple. It's showing you like a little slider on what used to be red, or if I go over here and I make it green, what used to be red is now green. Does that make sense?
Hey, Diana,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am not seeing those color wheels above the slider.
Well, what version of Photoshop are you working on? Changed
Um,
about, I'd say 3 months
I have
ago.
26.4.
Okay, so I'm at 26.10. One thing you need to know about Photoshop is that it's been putting out
Oh, maybe
update,
it got an update in the last week
been
or two.
putting out well, no, this in particular update has been around for like 2 months, I think.
Well, I updated I updated before last class. So
Okay, so that's interesting because last class that I taught this, which was in the summer, which wasn't that long ago, this feature was already available. So that's why I'm thinking it's been about a month or two.
yeah.
But go ahead and if you're at 0.4 and I'm at 0.10, go ahead and update it again.
No, my preset was set at custom.
Mhm.
Now they set it default and it still doesn't have it. Oh well.
Yeah. So
It's
is
for-
anyone else saying, what are you talking about? I don't have it, just like Gerard is saying? Because here's one thing I need you to know. In the past, Photoshop would update every year. And then it went every 6 months. Well, guess what? Now it's updating almost weekly, and there's new features coming out all the time. It's like they are just like set on the accelerator and they're just zooming through. And I'm not necessarily asking you to always have the latest update. But if it's been 2 or 3 months, and some of them are important enough, I will start incorporating them. And this one is one of our basics, like adjustment layers, right? So adjustment layers is something that we will adopt just because it's a tool that we use. So I'm not saying that you need to have every new little AI thing that is coming up down the pike, but when they update one of the basic tools like hue saturation layers, then I need to teach you the way it works now, right? That said, don't worry, just watch this, and after you update, you can find it. Okay.
Diana,
Yes.
I lost connection And so how did you get to the hue saturation? Is that a
okay.
layer?
That's great. So, first of all, I'm gonna go back. Remember that I had shown you last week, I believe I had shown you how to go command zoom, zoom, in, plus, 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 and command minus, 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 or if you're on a PC,
Oh,
control
wait.
plus, 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 control minus, minus, minus. I just wanted to show you that because I did it without repeating it. I just want to make sure, had I shown you that last week? Most of you guys have been in my class before and have seen
I
it. New
think so.
people. Okay. All right. So then, how to get that hue saturation layer. And since I showed you all how to do it one way, let me show you the other way I told you how to do it. So remember the contextual taskbar over here? The contextual taskbar, it says select subject, remove background, or adjust colors. If you already have your saturation layer, it won't. But for those of you who don't have one, I took mine out to help Mike. One option is to click on adjust colors.
Okay, when I did that, it came up with an error, there's something, I'm doing it again on my laptop here. It said how to fix, could not import clipboard because the scratch disks are full.
Okay, so
Learn
you
how to fix.
copied or pasted something and that it's trying to get you to paste. Go ahead and say exit or okay or whatever it tells you. That's you trying to
Okay.
paste something.
Oh, and then it's taking me to the troubleshoot scratch disk, full errors in Photoshop.
Yeah, so go ahead and just you don't need to learn about that. You're
Yeah,
trying to paste something and you don't want that. So go back.
yeah.
So guys, everyone who's here, let me just show you this again. If you want to drag down and get rid of that one that we just made, just select it and drag it, or just do a right click on it.
Oh,
And
God dang it.
when you right click on it, you can delete that layer. Okay. And delete the saturation layer, say yes. So those are two ways to get rid of it. And I'm going to show you a different way to get this set up, to get this adjustment layer. That is a new way too, because before you couldn't do it that way. Let me go for a second. I need to get myself, I'm having an issue with my mouse. Okay, never mind. All right. So if everyone's deleted their adjustment layers, now go pay attention to your contextual taskbar, which is a little bit hard to show here because the tulip field is so busy that it's hard to see, but here it is. And if once you got rid of that one, you'll notice that it now says three options: select subject, remove background. These two we used last week. And then there's a new one here that says adjust colors. This didn't used to exist. And this will only exist like if you have the new hue saturation option. So it wouldn't be for Gerard who can't find it right now because his version is older. But if you see that, then let's click on adjust colors. And two things happen at the same time. On the one hand, on the right side, those of you who saw before, the hue saturation layer appeared and there's your properties. But also here on the bottom, the contextual taskbar has turned into a really quick little hue saturation adjustment layer. And instead of showing me the basic set of colors as it did before, it's showing me the prominent colors. So this is a little bit more targeted than what we did before. This red isn't just any red. And let me just show you the difference again. Let me get rid of this and you guys stay where you are, but let me show you. When I did it the old-fashioned way that we opened and did hue saturation from here, these are the basic colors: basic red, yellow, green, magenta, blue. Okay, these are the colors that, so it says magenta, blue, cyan, green, red, and yellow, which are like the default set of colors. Now, we could have switched that here to prominent colors, and then it picks up on the colors that I have in my computer. But the default set of colors is what we moved when we clicked on red, and so the red everywhere moved, okay? Now, either changing it here, or, and now I'm gonna go back to doing it, when we do it directly from here, now I'm back to where I left you guys, then the choice of colors now becomes the colors that the image finds that are prominent in this image. So it's already more adjusted to the color that you want. So if I say now I want to click on change this red, and you click on that red there, then you have a tiny little slider here. And notice that if you slide this one over, it's still, because it can't help it, it's still picking up some of that information. So now I'm going to show you over here how to adjust it. But it's doing its best to go to the red that we're talking about. If we click on, and I just went ahead and double click to put it back to 0. How about the yellow? If I try to change the yellow, it does seem to be able to change the yellow without affecting so much anything else, although there's a bit of yellow in the green. So see how the yellow is also, the green is also changing a little bit. So when you have when you usually would do this example as a sample to show how well it works, you would do it with colors that are pure red, pure green, pure blue. But that's not reality. Reality is this, that however near to the color that you want, however much you're going to work on the green, well, this green also has some yellow in it. So when you move the green and the green is changing, then look what's happening also to the yellow flowers. So that's why this quick little access is good for a color that's very pure. But ultimately, you're still going to end up here where I'm going to show you how to then adjust the colors a bit better. Does that make sense? So this one is great and fancy, but it only works for pure colors. Yes, Rebecca?
Screenshots.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. Here we're doing a lot of changes, and I have to thank you, some of you guys. Let's do a screenshot of all of this. So I want you guys to show the adjustment here. I want you guys to include this and this. So let's do just a general screenshot of all of this so that we can see all this stuff, because it's new stuff. It's stuff that we need to put in our Padlet. And Bridge is still stopping me from sharing, unfortunately. Zoom is resistant here. And it's not letting me switch from program to program. It's got something against me today. It does that sometimes. Okay, so let's head over here and do a screenshot and do a post. Remember to put your name and to get that screenshot. And so now this is like the new hue saturation layer tool accessed from the contextual toolbar. Displays the prominent colors and allows for modifying the colors in the quick access toolbar, as well as in the properties panel. And I'm going to talk about, I'm writing it in, but I'm going to show you a little bit more. Okay, so hopefully you guys can do a screenshot and post, and it's okay if you come back and write about it later, but thank you for posting some of these. All right, so back to Photoshop.
Could you add the Padlet connection
Oh.
link?
Got it. That's true, because when you show a bit later, it's not there. Let me go pick it up from before. Padlet link is now posted again for those of you who didn't have it. Okay. Patricia, I'm noticing now that you had written that you have 32 pictures and I have 36. I think it's the fact that I had saved all my different versions of the chameleon in there, but I'm going to go check to see, because yes, I had downloaded mine earlier to see if I have
Yes,
it.
that's what it is, Diana. I already checked. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Cool. Yeah, now and then when you write to me something in the chat, if you notice that I'm not responding to it, is because sometimes the chat kind of disappears from my view. And I don't pay as much attention to it. Okay, so here's what I meant by that quick access color palette. Now, to be honest, there might be oh God, when I try to go to Brit, I hate that. Why is Brit is Zoom is stopping me from switching to sharing bridge, and it's only done that a few times in the past. Now it's doing it all the time today. So each time I switch to bridge, I have to stop my share, which is delaying everything. By the way, my alarm rang a few times telling me it's time to give you guys a break, so I will in a second. But I just wanted to show you this. If we go to a photo that is much more defined in colors, and I think that the ones that I have are, so actually, I know what I'm going to do. I had you guys open their chameleon. So over here, these are much more well defined. I mean, there is a pink in the ball and red, but I don't think there's much green in the ball. So in this case, if you were to select the ball, or let's say select the green, go down to the bottommost layer, so that we don't have the ball in there at all. Go to the bottommost layer, select the bottommost layer, and that's important. Because if you select this chameleon, remember, hue saturation adjusts anything that's underneath it. So then it's going to change the chameleon and the ball and the background. So select the bottom so the ball is left out of it. And now let's go to adjust colors.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
You have the ball without the link. Mine is they all have that link, that chain.
The chameleon's linked, not the ball, because I wanted to be able to move the chameleon.
How do you remove? I have on all my 3 layers, I have that
Okay.
chain.
So can I stop you for a minute? Let me finish with what I'm teaching, and then I'll show you the link. Give me a second. Hang in there. Let's head over to the chameleon, because right now it won't affect what we're doing, and I do want to finish this idea. So let's head over to adjust colors. And now, if we try to do from here, the greens, note that there's like 3 tones of green that the chameleon can have, and 2 tones of pink, because there's not that many colors in just the chameleon. It's not including the ball colors because it's only affecting what's underneath it. You see that? So it's not giving me the ball colors. Does that make sense? So hue saturation layer is applying itself only to the chameleon. And there's not that many colors in it. There's the brown from the twig, there's the cricket and the chameleon that are green, and then there's pink. What do you mean 2 tones of pink? Yeah, it's bright pink over here and dark pink over here. You see that? So it's a reduced palette. Well, let's say that what I want to do is change the middle green. I'm going to click on the middle green. It's still going to affect the other greens. So when I go move my green around, hello? Oh, I forgot. My chameleon is sitting on, the other one that is not being affected is sitting on top. So we need to take the eyeball off the top chameleon. So here I'm making you as easy an example, and now I'm making it harder because the changes are happening to the bottom chameleon, but this one was sitting on top of it, right? So now when I go back to this green and start changing this green, the chameleon is, and I'm going to have to turn off the ball because he's in the way. The chameleon is changing. You see that? I know that keeps being my alarm to give you guys a break. So is that working? Okay. Let's make the chameleon be like, I don't know, something totally different. Let me go with pink, but then I might need to go to that lighter green and move that also, etc., etc. Now, if I were to go to the pinks, here I'm adjusting the pinks, and there's not that much difference between one pink and the other pink, so all of the pinks are changing. All right. So just wanted to show you how it would work if the colors were a little bit more separate. Let's go to the brown. The brown in the twig is now going kind of green, or it's harder. Darker colors are harder to change because it's so dark that it doesn't change that much. But there we go. Okay, so now I've managed to modify a lot of the colors individually on something that's a bit more separate than the tulips are. Let's head back to the tulips. I want to show you then, how do we actually make it work so that I only work on the red and not on the green and the yellow and all of those colors at the same time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have give me a screenshot of your changed colors of the chameleon. And then we're going to take our break, and then I'm going to work a little bit more on that. And I'm going to show whoever wants to see how to unlink stuff, how to do that. But first, let's do a screenshot of the chameleon, which now is quite different than it used to be. And always include your layers, okay? Please always include your layers. Let's post the chameleons. And I had to switch back to post it. So now I wrote down adjust colors using the contextual bar, okay? So although ultimately, if you look to the right, there is an adjustment.
We're not seeing your screen.
Okay, so I just posted in the Padlet. I had to stop sharing because it wasn't letting me switch, but all I did was show you that in the Padlet I have I called it adjust color from the contextual bar, okay? Because in this one we haven't even gone to the hue saturation layer, but if you actually look and see, there is a hue saturation layer that got created when I did this, but I didn't go to it to move it in the properties. All I did was move the little tabs under the contextual taskbar. Okay, so going back for a second to Photoshop to show you how to link or unlink something. When you have things that are linked that are not correct, in the case of Sharon's question, and then we're going to take our break, you need to first unlink everything. So if I were to right click on this little guy, the one that is linked, right? And I go and click on the little ball that we used, the little icon that we used to link them last week. We have to say unlink layers. Okay, so everything will unlink. And now go ahead and select correctly again. Instead of selecting the ball, select only the chameleon, and then with the command or control key, the second chameleon. So both chameleons are the ones that we left linked. And now you go back up here and you say link layers. So you basically, if you have something else linked, you need to just unlink them all and relink the correct ones. There's no way to like unlink just one. Does that make sense? Sharon?
Yeah, also, oh, yes, I have to do it one by one then. Each layer I have to unlink it.
You can select all the linked ones. You can do the same thing. Select command, control. Are you on a Mac or on a PC?
I got it. I got it. Okay, so another question is,
Wait.
you?
If I say something, I need to say it for everyone, even if you got it, since I'm teaching everyone. Says when you have 10 linked layers and you don't want to do it individually, you can select all the ones that are linked, you know what I mean, with your command or control key again, then unlink them all at once, and then link again only ones that you want. Yes, sorry, Sharon, I stopped you.
Okay, sorry. Looking at your screen, you only have the properties and adjustments. I have like histogram, navigation. How do I get rid of
True. Let me, I wasn't in my photography. I was playing around with this stuff the other day. I wasn't in my photography. There we go. Now I'm in a photography workspace. Now you have the adjustments and the properties and everything. Okay. There you go. I had changed my workspace. It's supposed to be in the photography choice. My workspace, I was in the core tools, but it's not the one I told the class to be in. I told the class to be in photography, and I had switched it and I hadn't changed it. Thanks, Sharon, for noticing. Everyone, if you see my screen being very different than yours, our workspaces are different. So hopefully someone would have called on me sooner. You probably would have said, my screen looks different than yours. Remember, when your screen looks very different than yours, something is missing or different, let me know. In this case, it's because I was the one who had switched to Core Tools, which, by the way, Core Tools is something that exists only in the newer versions of Photoshop. So again, if you don't see the Core Tools choice, it's because you have an older version. So we're going to head back up to make sure that we're in the photography extension. And just in case, we're going to reset photography so it looks like everyone. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this up again for today's class. Now, I'm going to stop my share. Let's take our break. Yes, you all deserve a break, but if you have an older Photoshop version, this might be a good time to set the new one to update so that by the time we come back, you can have it updated. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. So what time is it? It's 10:54. So that's if we're 10:55, that would mean that we get back at 11:10, right? Is that 15 minutes? Okay, so be back by 11:10 a.m. All right. Let's go on our break and I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. Hi, I'm back. I was running. Whew. All right. Here we go. I'm on a, it's interesting because I'm on a, about a few months ago, or at this point, God, I've been gone for so long, it's been more than a few months ago, but I set myself up in a new space to teach. And I have an electric desk now that goes up and down. And I used to have my desk on bricks, so I was always standing. Now I can go up or down. But I inadvertently brought it down on my leg and it was like squishing down. And I couldn't figure out why I was so squished today. And it's because I had brought it down by mistake. Anyway, here we go. Still can't get my mice to work because it's very frustrating. Okay. Is everyone back? Those of you who are here, I can see that's good, but if you are the kind that don't turn on your videos, then give me a yes if you're here so that I know that you're here. Perfect. All right. Then I'll know who's back and who's not. Okay, so now let's go back to that tulip field. Aw, thank you for the hearts, Moni. And let's start figuring out how we can work with those colors to modify them in a way that would allow us to modify those flowers a little bit better. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the properties for this. So we're going to leave the little simple, up and down where we can just not do much to it. In fact, let's double click. And if you have moved any of these, bring them back to 0. And then let's open the properties panel, which you might have here in the middle. You might have pointing out, or if you don't know what I mean by the properties panel, the hue saturation layer here is always going to have 2 portions. Remember last week? And I keep opening this. If you don't have it, just watch. We're not working on this one right now, but remember I showed you that there was a portion that you could click on here that was, we had created some masks, and you can click on the mask or on the thumbnail. Same now with the hue saturation, you can either click on the mask itself or on the properties. These are the properties. When you click on the properties, if you double click them, they open up. Where do they open up from? They open up from this little icon here that's the sliders that we have seen before. That's the properties icon, okay? So if you're clicking on this side of the hue saturation mask, or if you're opening it from here, this is the full-on properties panel. So now you might have it showing up really tiny like that. You need to expand it because we want to see the whole thing. The whole thing being, I want to see the second row of colors. All right, once you're here and you're in the second row of colors, now let's go ahead and choose, for example, the yellow. The yellow and red are a little bit more complicated because the yellow has so much of the red in it. And let's actually zoom in. So Command or Control plus plus plus. And we're going to scroll down to one of these flowers, maybe not so zoomed in, so we can see. But you see most of this yellow has a lot of that same red in it. So no matter how much we isolate it, unless we mask it, and by the way, we could mask just the red flowers. We haven't talked about masking in this class yet. But mainly, we're going to try to adjust this not by masking, but by working with the color properties here on this hue saturation. But let's go ahead and go with the green first. The green is going to have some yellow, a touch of red, but not so much. So let's click on the green color. See how here you choose a color now? Let's click on the green color that the computer says is just the prominent green. And now we're going to use the sliders over here to flip that. And let's say, right, that we're moving just the green. And then notice that then the flowers are still changing because there's some green in the yellow, and even there's a little bit in the bottom of the red flowers, okay? There's a little bit of green in there, so you can kind of see how other things are being affected. That said, it's much better isolated than the rest. So now let's double click to go back into the middle. And now let's choose a slightly deeper. So we're going to move it only to being a little bit deeper green. We're going to keep it being green because it's still plants, but we're going to make it be like a much deeper tone of green. Okay, so there you go. But as you can see, the main place where you're seeing a change is in the tips of the yellow flowers. You see what I'm talking about when I mean that? So look at the number here, 40, just so that we know kind of to keep coming back. Let's say that we go from 0 to about 40, right? So if I head over to about 40, so which is about there, then the green got really deep, but the flowers are being affected. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head down here to the second set of sliders. And the way this works, it's showing you that it's taking the green that's in between these two little lines right there is the main part that it's reading. So it's green with a bit of yellow. You see how it goes from green to a little bit of yellow? Can you tell? And then it's extending that range to the yellow portion there and to the green portion there. So really what's being affected by this filter is not just this green, but quite a bit of the yellow. So if I were to grab the internal left side, the one that goes into the yellow, and just drag it in. So now I'm going to do this movement is what I'm doing, but you guys keep an eye on this yellow, the yellow that was being affected. Keep an eye on that, okay? While I do that thing of dragging that line in, and basically now it took the effect away from the yellow. You see that? So watch, I am saying, no, I don't want that yellow to be affected. So I'm bringing it into just green. And in fact, I'm going to extend it to more of the green. So I've moved this to extend it to more of the green. And I also have this little range that I can constrain. So if I constrain this little triangle, now look back at down here. If I grab this extender and constrain it to being just about the green that I'm talking about and no other green, now I can move this around and the only thing that's changing is the green, right? But if you look at the greens, only some of the greens are being affected because I've restricted it so much that it's only some of the greens. Notice how now the rest of the greens are not changing. So I restricted it too much. I brought it in too much. So now I have to expand it again to include other greens, but just exclude the yellows. So I'm expanding this to be all my greens. So the center point expands to what colors I want to change. And this extends the range to other tones. And what I don't want to do is extend it into the yellows. I really don't want the yellow to change. So I'm going to go to the greens, but not to the yellows. And now when I move this around, more of my greens are changing. Does that make sense? Does that see how I'm working with those things to focus or extend the range? Now it's going to be a bit easier with the reds if you can't see it on the greens. So we're going to go ahead and keep it. Now I'm going to try to extend a little bit into the greens over there, but not much because I really don't want the yellows to change. So now I'm basically got most of my greens and none of my yellows. You see that? Sometimes you want to restrict it that way. Other times, no, you want more of the whole gradient to change. Like in the pink chameleon, we changed it. We didn't want to restrict it to one type of pink. We wanted it to go to all the pinks, right? But in this case, it's the other way around. We want to restrict it to the greens and not to the yellows. So now I can change the greens and my red and my yellows are staying the same. Now, some of the greens aren't changing because they're falling too near the yellows. So if I extend this a little bit to include those greens, I have to extend it only a teensy bit so that it only applies to the green. See over here, I'm adding the stem, but I'm trying to make sure that not much of the yellow gets affected. So I'm working on my image that way to make sure that there's nothing here that's being extended that I don't. That's why I'm changing it to some really weird color so I can really see and not leave any of the green. So I've discovered that most of the greens are falling within that area of the green, right? So now there we go. So now I have access to just the greens of this image without affecting the yellow or the red. All right, is that working for you? Give me a yes. If you have questions or if it's not working for you or you're not sure what we're talking about, then give me a no, or raise your hands, or ask for help. And this is something that I haven't shown in a long time. But since they just changed this cool tool, I figure let's talk about it. Now, there's ways of masking where we could have masked those flowers away from the green, and it had been a way to affect just the flowers. But I'm not talking masking yet. Masking is a huge part of Photoshop, and we will get there. But I wanted to show you that there are some things that have to do with color that you don't really need to do masking with, and this is one of them. Okay, I'm seeing yeses everywhere. Patricia, how are you doing? Oops. Not hitting
I'm
that
doing
one.
okay, Diana.
Okay.
Let me add my yes.
Okay. Just know that if I don't hear from you, I'll ask you. And if you say yes, that's good enough for now. But next time, give me the yes or the no. There we go. So that was one way to adjust the green. Now let's go over here into the hue saturation and let's double click on that. And just so that we remember, well, actually I want to keep the name hue saturation on, but you might take the little one off and call it greens, for example, right? So you can just grab and change only that word, greens. Now, you might not be seeing enough of this to change it much. If you expand it, you'll see more. Of course, you don't want to see so much that you hide your image. So just enough so that you have an idea of what's happening. Now, you don't need to have a different hue saturation to change the other colors. Like you can actually use it inside of the same one, but I don't want to confuse the issue. If I go to the reds right now, I could change just the reds. But since I made that one with greens, I want you to know that the green here got changed. Now, it didn't get changed that much, so this doesn't show you that line that I had shown you before. It's there. If I head over to the purple, it'll show you green and purple. It's just that what we did is we just made it a deeper green, right? So a deeper green doesn't give you such a big line there, but it is happening. Say that we left them be more bluish green, which some plants have bluish green. There we go. Now you see that line a little bit more. See what I mean? So it's still realistic. There is that green and green plants. Some plants have that deep blue green and that looks good. And so it's a subtle change. Okay. So if I turn this on and off, there's my old green and here's my new green, and the yellow and the pink and the red aren't being affected because I've adjusted this for the greens. Now let's see if we can change the reds. So let's head over to this red. Now there's that red and there's this red, right? Because there's like the deeper portion of the red and the lighter portion of the red. But let's see if we can target this stuff to change that. Let's see. It's gonna, as I said, there's red in these flowers, so this one won't change as easily. Well, there's also the deeper red that's in here from the pink flowers. Right there. So let's start with the pink one. Let's start with the pink flowers. Let's go to the pink flower. And let's start by just flipping it and see what happens.
Do we want to make a new layer?
That's true. If we want to, we don't have to, but you're right. Why don't we leave that one for the greens? You're right. Let's make a new one. Let's go down here to hue saturation. And let's make a new one, which, as I said, you can do it all in one, but just for clarity's sake, let's just do it in separate ones. You're right. Let's go for that. Well, you don't have to see, now that you have these choices, you don't really need to go for the different. So why teach you to do it the wrong way? The right way would still be to do it in the right, depending on how messed up the colors are, whether it matters to do it one. Let's do it on the same one, because ultimately this is how you would do it in most cases. If it gets too complicated, you basically have to resort to masking. You wouldn't really do 2 or 3 different hue saturation layers. So let's just do in the same one. Now that you have that choice here, it's easier doing the same one. So let's pick the pink color. And then let's move it to the left and to the right. And we discover that, yes, the flower, the pink flower is changing, but a lot of stuff in the red flower is also changing, right? So once again, let's go give it a very bizarrely different color so that we can see the change in a big manner. So say that we go for this bright blue there, and we can see that it's affecting a lot of the colors. This will be harder to restrict because between pink and red, there's a lot of overlap. But let's see if the first thing we do is we bring the external, so these 2 little internal lines in, right? Let's see if we get it to touch more of just this pink there, more of my reds have come back. And then see over here where we have more of the reds, let's restrict it. So I'm restricting it from the reds and bringing it into the pinks, and I'm extending it a little bit into the pinks. Maybe I'll go a little bit over there. So I'm just playing around with that until I can kind of see that most of the changes are happening only on the pink flower. It's going blue. I still have some bright pink edges there, but the red isn't being affected now. Let's see if I can get a bit more of the pink in there. And there you go. That's not affecting blues. Don't want to go too deep into the blues because now I have blues in my greens. There's a place where if I try to get all these pinks, I end up getting a titch of the pink that's up there. There's a place where I really can't restrict it enough. The moment I add a bit more of that here, then I start getting those tips. The moment I bring it down there, then I don't get the pink, right? So I have to choose that little happy medium right there and see if that's gonna work, because they truly do have the same exact color. And then we're gonna do some masking. And if we do masking, then you would have wanted to have this be a separate one like Rebecca suggested. But for now, we're going to go with as much as we can with color, and because I haven't really taught masking to this group yet for the people who are new. So now I've got most of my pink is changing and only the tips of my reds are changing. So now let's bring this back and give it a different color. So now instead of the bright pink that it used to be, that flower used to be bright pink, let's see what color we can make it be. Maybe we'll make it be red or orange. There we go. So now my colors that used to be pink is now red. Does that make sense? If I turn this on and off, it went from pink to red. How does that look for you guys? We can make it be purple. From bright pink to purple. Could have a little bit of a purple flower instead. Let me see, from that bright pink to purple, purple blue. I mean, we can go ridiculous, but flowers really are blue, but they are purple. There's not much blue in nature. I think I'd rather make it be a bit of an orangey tone. Now you could play with saturation down here, make it a little more saturated. Be careful, but you can. Whenever you can make it a little bit darker or lighter. You don't want to do too much of that. Darker or lighter here is a pretty dangerous thing to do. So if you move it only a teensy little bit off the 0. But this would not be the right place because you're going to get a tone that's so different from the rest of them that it'll look really fake. So I wouldn't work too much with darker or lighter. But you can do a bit more saturation to get it a bit brighter orange. Okay, so now that's the before and this is the after. Now I've got bluer greens and my pink has turned into orange. Now let's see what we can do with the yellows. Everyone following? Everyone good? I see your message, Mike. Thank you. Okay, we're all good. Let's try the yellows. Again,
I had
there's
a quick question. Sorry.
Mhm.
So I don't like the way that mine did it, and I wanted to go back to the original pink. And when I go back and I double click on my hue bar, it doesn't go back to the original.
Well, then you can just type in 0 and hit return.
It is at 0 and it's still not. It's a muted.
Saturation and the lightness too. So then you have
Everything's
to
0. Yeah.
And when you turn this on and off, it doesn't look like it.
Oh, yeah. No,
But your brain, it's fine. Colors, your eyes get accustomed to a different color.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
to see whether it's the original or not. Yeah. If these are all at 0, it should be back to 0. But the way to make sure is to do this and see how my red and my yellow are the original ones. So then I can really see what it used to be. Again, we might get to the point where we need a mask, but right now I'm trying to make it work with just the hue saturation palette in a much more specific way than I've ever shown you how to use. This tool here has been there forever, by the way. But it's just easier to pick it up now that we have the prominent colors. Before you could only jump to just reds and blues, and so it's just become easier to use. Okay, so now which one did I say we're gonna go next to? The yellows. So if I move my yellows around, it doesn't seem, unless I go really extreme, it looks like there's some yellow in my red. Okay, so let's move my yellows to something totally ridiculous like blue there. And now let's restrict it. See how my yellow was including some red. Let's restrict that so it doesn't include too much of the red. That said, there's red in the image. It is red in my flower. So I do need to include some of that red, but maybe not the extended range of the red. And I don't want, see how if I let more yellow in, it's also affecting my plant. So I want to let less yellow in so it doesn't affect my plants too much. Because now if I restrict too much of the yellow so the plants don't get red, then some of my yellow flowers aren't getting addressed. So you have to find the right balance. And I'm having a microcosm of the flowers here. I'm sure there's some that are a bit different out there, but these seem pretty similar. So there, now I've gotten to a plate where I think I've restricted this pretty well to just the yellow. I'm going to go back and let's see what other color I can make them. There's not that many colors of the yellow. So I'm going to make the yellow flowers red. They used to be red. Now I'm making them red, reddish orange. So there, now my yellow is kind of a reddish orange. When I'm done with that, I'm going to pick my reds, my good old red flowers. Okay. And I'm going to put them in some weird color hue. And now I'm going to restrict the red because that's picking up a lot of my, here, let's make them be blue so I can really see how much of the other one is being picked up. And I'm going to start by restricting the pink. I think for the most part, I've managed to restrict it to just the flowers. Not perfect, but there we are. A little bit less. Okay, so now when I move the red, I'm just kind of moving the red. I'm going to make the red flowers be pink. Looks like I made my tulips almost the same. I got 2 oranges there, so I might need to change the color of one of them. I'm going to go back to my pink ones. Instead of making them orange, I'm going to make them a little bit purplish. There we go. So now for the most part, okay, so for the most part, I have some leakage here. For the most part, I guess my reds didn't change that much. Getting a little bit of blue tinge on these flowers. That's that deep, deep, deep red that was in the shade of most of the yellow. It was that deep red was in a lot of different flowers. And so this one's a hard one to not affect everything. Right. So once I extend this to the whole panel, I still see that some other flowers still have the details in them a bit weird. So I need to go and work on that, but for the most part with one color saturation, which affects everything, I've been able to change all my colors. My yellow is now pink. My pink is now purple, and my red is now pink, and my green is now a bluish green. I'm gonna go ahead and say Command 0, and that's the before, and this is the after, where I've chosen what I want those colors to turn into. And normally you wouldn't do this for every single flower. I mean, there's other ways to separating and masking, but this is a really good way to use that tool where you want to isolate it to a certain set of colors. I don't really like that blue-green that I got the plants to be. So I can go back to the green and then just back off and make it a little bit less blue-green. There we go. That's a little bit more realistic. Maybe I can desaturate it a little bit. Doesn't take over so much. There we go. So as you can see, you can keep going back in and modifying, and as you see things that you don't like there's 2 petals there that are pink that kept a lot of the purple, and that's because those were originally red ones, and they'd had a really deep streak in there. So that one I'm trying to affect, but if I fix those 2, it'll affect everything. So maybe it's better to leave 2 and then I'm going to teach you to work on masking, and work on masking, maybe we can affect those separately. All right. This is a lot, like when we see this as a screenshot, we might not be able to understand the before and after too much because we are seeing either the before or the after. I'm going to go ahead and change this. By the way, I want to save this file first before we go ahead and do some screenshots, because when I try to just say Command Control S to regular save or file save, turns out I can't, because this was a JPEG and it can't save it again as a JPEG like it says here without losing information. What it means is that it would have to flatten it in order to turn it into a JPEG. So it's telling you, no, I can't. Not that you can't, you can force it, but then you'll flatten it. And the last thing I want to do is flatten this and have this be our only photo, not have the original. So we'll say, okay. And instead it's going to give me the save as, and it's going to turn it into a PSD. Okay. Photoshop document, then it'll conserve that layer. So we're going to call this one Tulip Field Slash, and we're going to call this Prominent Color Hue Saturation, just so we know it's a bit newer than the original hue saturation that we used to do. And save that one. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm just calling it that to show that there's a difference in the tool from what it's been used in the past. And you guys who don't have a past because all you have is this, then you're just learning the new way, and that's perfect. It's not that different from before. This used to exist, but it's much more targetable than it used to be. That's the only thing that I'm doing here. Now you could have done something like this by using these color ranges before. So, but now they've made it easier. It used to be a tool that was a bit more complicated to use at a higher level, so I didn't get to teach these details in like basic Photoshop, but now they've made it a bit easier to use in basic Photoshop, and that's why I'm explaining this. All right. So now let's take a screenshot of this. Whoops. And I'm gonna do a screenshot of that. But just so that, just for my sample, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mask about half of this. So this is gonna show you my before and after colors. And this is something I'm just gonna do just for the screenshot, and then I can undo that. So you can easily see what was the before and after. Okay, so this is just for the screenshot, but we don't really need to do that for you guys. I just want to leave that there as the choices that I'm doing. Okay, so now I'm gonna head over to here and I'm gonna post. Oh, the screenshot doesn't work because it doesn't include, hold on, it didn't include the properties. So let me go back for a second here and do a better screenshot of this because I had forgotten to include the properties. Okay, so now I see your hand is up. Give me a second while I post this and then I will answer your question. So give me a second, Karen. While I post this, I'm gonna edit this photo for a second, that's all. Where's mine? I'm gonna post the right photo. And submit. Okay, so now you guys can see the before and after in my example with, in case you guys, oops, let me edit that, I have a typo in there. Using. All right, yes, Karen?
Yeah, did you want us to post the way you did it? And I was busy
Yes.
messing with my
Mhm.
screen. I didn't see how you split it like that.
Yeah, no, don't bother doing that. That's masking. I haven't taught you yet. If you guys know how to do this, do this. But other than that, just post the final product. Okay, so I'm opening Rebecca's. So here she's showing the colors that she's making. But mostly on here on the left side, we can see that he's been adjusting all of the different colors. And that's what I wanted to see. And then restricting them with this or that. And some of you guys are trying. Some of you guys are going to be more or less successful with it. But oh, this is the general one. This is the one where everything got changed all at once. So I'm not, do I need to reset to see the rest of you guys, or are you still not posting? Mary Ellen just posted. Okay, and I can see that she's got different colors changed over here as well. Okay, you can tell by which ones of these is being affected that you're working individually with different colors. Okay. All right. How's it going? Does anyone need help? If you're good and you're just working on it, and then you're working on getting the the screenshots posted, then that's good. Give me a yes. But if you have questions or it's not working, then give me a no. Or if you want to move further along with the questions, then give me a yes. Okay. So here's the thing, you guys, you have homework, and I have neglected, last week we didn't really have much homework other than reading this stuff, so I didn't post it here. But this is day 2, so I'm gonna put in homework. Open a photo of your own or another one of my sample photos, right? And adjust the colors in it independently from each other using prominent colors and color range sliders in one same hue saturation adjustment layer. Now, all of this is so let me just for some reason it doesn't consider me the owner of this. Oh, because I accessed it from the link. Okay. I need to go back in here and connect. Let me log in as myself because it's considering me one of you guys where you can't change that. Let me sign in. Okay, so now I am the owner. So now I can pin this one. Okay, so here at the top, you'll always have what's the homework, right, for that image and for the day. Okay. Now, once you guys do, and I'm going to post, I had already also posted somewhere the shortcuts. I'm going to put that also as a pinned post. Okay. So I want you to be doing it with your own photos. If you don't have your own photos available for any reason, then use it in another photo that might have enough colors here to make that be this a good one now. Thing about the DNGs that I haven't opened a DNG with you guys is if you open a DNG, for those of you who don't know about RAW yet, it won't open straight into Photoshop. So for now, avoid any DNG until you know how to handle DNGs. So for now, you can open any other. I don't have that many colors in the rest of my photos. They're not very colorful images. So given that, you might need to use a photo of your own to have some variety, because this is about the coloriest photo that I've posted. Yes, Moni?
So I have my snippet tool that I always use for my screenshots, and somehow it's acting really funny and it won't let me take a picture. What is the shortcut to do on a PC to do a screenshot?
Windows screen, and hold on, let me just show you guys in case you need to. Oh God, it's doing that thing again where it's not letting me. Window, hold on, let me share again because I want to show you how you can help yourself in case this is not working while I'm not around. And the first post I have is how to make screenshots, and over here
yeah.
you have Windows key Shift S.
Okay, I don't know why that's not working either.
Oh, maybe you have some, you know what, you must have like a dialog box somewhere waiting for you to say yes or no, or something is in the midst of being worked on.
Well, it lets me select the area I want, but then it won't actually take the picture. So I don't know, something.
Your escape key to see.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in the middle of some process, right?
Yeah.
And in the middle of some process, nothing happens until it's gone. So mainly try to make sure that you don't have, especially if you have another monitor, some dialog box hanging in behind something that you're not seeing, but it's waiting for you to say yes, no, cancel, something like that. And then that's why the tool isn't working. So just so you guys see, if you forget how to do screenshots, my first pin that I have here is how to make screenshots for Windows or for Mac people, just so you remember the shortcuts for you when you do this during the weekend. And then please post your results so that I can see those changes. Okay. All right. So if everyone is good with that, I'm seeing lots of yeses. I'm not counting to see who posted or who didn't post. That's up to you. If you don't post during the class, please post after class. It's okay if you just do the screenshots though, and then wait until after class to post. Now you can do that if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC and you're doing copies, you can't do that. So you have to use a snippet tool, which is what Moni uses to, and here, if you click on this link, it'll tell you to a better place to use a snippet tool. Then you can get little things waiting in your computer waiting to post later. But the PC people are doing copy. So when you do a copy, you need to come in here and paste, right? Otherwise later when you don't have that screen up anymore, you can't go and do a screenshot of it. Then learn how to use a snippet tool, and then you can leave little desktop images like we do on the Mac. All right, here we go. Everyone's good, and there's no more questions about this. We're gonna move on to a different feature. Okay. Give me a second here. Okay, let's go back to Bridge. Okay. Sorry, I just got a message about a warning. It's not good. My husband's out in the world biking, not in the world here in Santa Barbara, but he's crossing the country and he's doing some stuff, and he's in an area where there's a big fire, and there's an alert fire for that area. So I just saw that message, and some things my brain can't ignore. So I was just sending him a warning. I'm sure they know better than me, but anyway. He's up in Idaho or something. I don't know. He's crossing the country, so I think he's in Idaho right now. Okay. Back to Bridge. Now today I'm gonna show you a little bit about working with colors and stuff, but in Camera Raw. So for some of you guys, we haven't opened Camera Raw ever at this point, for sure. Shamuel, are you still working on an older version of Photoshop in your computer, or is it the newer version? By the way, you're muted. So
yeah, it says Photoshop 2025.
Okay. So then you probably have a similar camera raw to me. All right, so we're gonna head over to the Boats DNG. Boats also has some colors to work with, and they're actually a little bit easier than the flowers in that they seem much more distinct from each other. There's not so much overlap, but it's a DNG, which is a file that is the raw format. So when I open it, it's not gonna open into Photoshop. It's gonna open into Camera Raw, which is part of Photoshop, part of Bridge. It's kind of this independent engine. You can open it also and use it inside of Photoshop, but right now it's just going to look very different. And that's why for new people, you'll be like, well, this is in Photoshop. Well, let's do that. Let's double click on the DNG. And it's opening in this thing that says, welcome to Camera Raw. Now, every time you upgrade Photoshop, Camera Raw upgrades separately, and Camera Raw upgrades even more often than Photoshop. So whenever you're upgrading, this is the latest one, okay? And it tells you what the new things are. But anyway, one of the things that it's doing is it's perfecting the generative remove. We're going to talk about that. And now it can do automatic dust removal, which is new. So it just keeps showing you the latest features. All these, thing about Photoshop, for many years, it just sat there and you would only update every a few times a year, but it started falling behind other applications. I think we talked about it a little bit with Ed last year, last class. And then it decided to put on its, pull itself up from the bootstraps and start adding a lot of new stuff. And now it's got updates up the gazoo. Sometimes they're just minor bug fixes and sometimes they're big changes. And so, by the way, Gerard, were you able to update your Photoshop during the break? Did you see did you get the new
Yeah.
stuff?
Yes, they did. Yep. Thank
So-
you.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is Camera Raw. Okay, Camera Raw is a tool in and of itself that does many things at once. So right now we saw how in Photoshop, with the tulips, we had to create an adjustment layer to make all these changes. One layer we could have did in Photoshop is the Camera Raw tool. We could have done that inside of Camera Raw as well. But when you open a file that is already raw, then it opens first in here and it says, do you want to make all these changes first before we go into Photoshop? It's kind of like what it's doing. And so one of the things you can do is work with color and light and color grading. And there's a lot of color stuff that we can do in here. Right now, I'm not gonna go deeply into all of these options. We're gonna get there. But I wanted to show you that you can adjust light. So this little triangle here, you can adjust color, you can adjust effects, but this color is different than what we just did. This color has to do with color of the light that's falling into the image. So all of this is being affected. So these sliders are not equivalent to the sliders that we were seeing there before. That is more like color mixer down here is more similar to what we just worked on in Photoshop. This color is more like the color of the light. And if you're not sure what I mean about that, well, the light that's falling from the sky changes if you have clouds, if you don't have clouds, if it's a very cloudy day, if it's a rainy day, if it's sunset, if it's sun. I mean, the one that we all know, our eyes can pick up immediately on the fact that if it's sunset, everything gets more orange, right? Same happens at sunrise. It's a different tone of yellow, but you see that in the sunrise. But it's harder for us to notice that the sun is falling differently on an image, changing the color of what you see if it's a brighter day or if it's a slightly cloudy day. Then you just kind of think, oh, that pink is pink. But a camera catches that and notices that the pink that when you have a cloudy day or a sunny day is going to look different because there's going to be a different reflection of light. The rays that are falling you has a different color temperature. And sometimes that pink is a little bit more bluish, a bit more greenish, a bit more grayish. And that has to do with the actual color of the light around us. And the camera can capture that. Yes, Rebecca?
Oh, well, that just made me think like when you're traveling in a car with the window, if you're shooting just regular, it changes the whole thing. Would it be better to shoot raw then?
No, you can change color balance in RAW or not in RAW. You can choose that also and change it in Photoshop. But yeah, I mean, It's just a factor, it's just a factor of light. It's not so much whether it's Photoshop raw or not raw. This is,
Well, it seems that, is it then your eye adjusts because
it's color balance. It's the color balance. So our eyes,
uh-huh.
we walk into a room that's really dark from the sun, and you know how our eyes go, oh, everything looks black, and then after a while everything looks normal again. Or if you're in a dark room and you just kind of walk out into the sun, how your eyes go, oh, and then after a while you see again. That's our eyes adjusting to the color of the light. You just think, oh, it's sunny or it's not sunny, but our eyes just kind of, the diaphragm closes or opens and things happen, and finally you're seeing normal again. So that same pink t-shirt you were wearing outside, you look inside and you go, oh, I'm still wearing a pink t-shirt. But if a camera captures that pink t-shirt outside or inside and you look at the photo, you'll be like, looks like I'm wearing two different pink t-shirts, because the pink will have changed, and you will not, you yourself will just go, I'm just wearing a pink t-shirt, love the color of my t-shirt. And you won't notice that it looks different because our eyes just adapt. And for us, it still looks like the same pink. The camera has a thing called white balance. And that white balance is the camera will see the pink as it's looking, and it's a tool inside of it that allows it to adjust that white balance, and it tries to make the white neutral. And so this has existed forever, and it's just cameras doing this. And in the past, cameras didn't do so well at adjusting with color. Do you remember taking pictures when we had tungsten lights in our houses, and you would take a picture indoors and everyone's skin would appear kind of orange?
Mm-hmm.
Know what I'm talking about? And it would have to be people who were paying more attention to photos.
I
But
remember being told to take a picture of a white paper first before you took your film in to be developed.
yes, there we go. Because, and it was white. There was a thing called a grayscale chart, a gray card. You can do either white or gray. And then you adjust the processing of that image to that color. Anyway, for those of you who
So the phones do that automatically?
So now not just phones, but all cameras have a much, much better grasp of white balance. It just does it much better. So a lot of times you see an image and it isn't so off. But pay attention to this one that we have in front of us here, where it says color, it says white balance as shot. What this means is that this is what the camera, whatever camera that was used, which in this case it's an iPhone. This is a photo I took, and my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is has one way of processing color, which will be different than a Nikon or even an iPhone 6. Like, each camera will have its own way of processing color. So as shot, meaning this is what my camera chose to say that that is what's correct at that time of day with that light. Now notice that I would click down here and see what auto might say, which is what Photoshop thinks might be the right color for that light. And did you see how everything became a little bit warmer?
Mhm.
And neither one is better or worse. It's different processings. Now, what if we said, well, it was daylight. Now, when you say it was daylight, you're meaning to say that it was bright sunny. If I say daylight, I'm saying it was a bright sunny day. So what's happening is now it got changed because actually it wasn't a bright sunny day. And so the correction for daylight made that look weird. If I say it was tungsten lighting and I click on tungsten, what you're saying is, guys, this is tungsten lighting. Please correct it to what it would look like in tungsten lighting. Boom. It's correcting it, giving me a ton of blue because it's trying to counteract all the yellow from the tungsten lighting. So now it looks very blue. Since in fact it wasn't tungsten lighting, it's a bad correction. Does that make sense? You are saying it was a fluorescent lighting. Boom, fluorescent lighting is a lot of green, so it's going to turn very reddish, very magenta. So that's what these are doing. If instead you say it was shady, which is a bit more correct to what it was, then it's looking a bit more maybe like the camera caught it. So let's go from shade to as shot. And it's much more similar because this was actually, wasn't shady. It was near sunset, but it wasn't orange light yet. And there wasn't any sun on it. The sun was sitting on some other area. It was a day that was a bit cloudy, but it wasn't really cloudy. But look at between as shot or cloudy, and suddenly there's barely any shift. because maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe it was cloudy. Yeah, because I had a good sunset shot with amazing clouds. So that was probably cloudy. So see how cloudy and as shot show up to be pretty similar? Now I can know that because I was there and I took the picture. Many times you're working on photos that you weren't there, you weren't, or if you were there, 10 years ago and you forgot if it was cloudy or not. So, you're gonna not be able to remember what it was, or you're gonna trust that the camera was right, or you're gonna say, hey, Photoshop, tell me what you think it should be, and you're gonna hit on auto. And neither one's gonna be better or worse, because the truth is, it's up to you. Do you want to make it look like it was sunset? Well, maybe you're going to grab the yellow and moving even more towards the yellow. We're adding more yellow for it to look a little bit more like sunset. It's a little bit hard because it's not sunset lighting. There's no like deep, shadows or anything that tells me it's sunset. So it just kind of looks a little bit off in color. If I tell it, no, it was daylight, which means it would be bluer light, we would move this over to the right and then it looks bluer because that's what daylight is, bluer. Cloud is even bluer. Anyway, so the moment you start moving this to the right or to the left yourself, then you go into this custom mode. So what we're doing with temperature or with tint is we're adjusting for the color of the light in the moment. And so we add either yellow or blue to the color temperature. Okay, so that would be the daylight, the cloudy, the dark, that would be either more yellow or more blue. Tint would happen when it's a different type of lighting. When it's fluorescent lighting is very green. That's why when you ever walk into a place of fluorescent lighting and you look kind of sickly, you don't know why, but it's because the fluorescent light is very green and it's adding some green to your skin. And so you're like, I don't look so good in here. Perfect example is whenever I go to my mother's house in Argentina, and you're trying, how and you're, I don't know, in Santa Barbara, but if everyone's ever lived in a place that has buildings, you go in an elevator to go up, right? And so there's elevators. And every time I get into the elevator to go to my mom's, or the worse, I get all primped and whatever to go out. I live in at my mom's and I go visit my sister or whatever, and I go out, I go to the elevator and I look horrible. We have this joke amongst my family, which is, do not ever dare look at my mom's elevator because all the good you were feeling, you look suddenly horrible because the lighting they have in the elevator makes you look like you're just walking into the grave or something. It's absolutely the worst. And there's a mirror in the elevator and you look at yourself and you go, ah. So we always make sure to not look at the mirror in there or you're going to walk out feeling like but it's just the light. That's all it is. It's the color of light that makes you look horrible. Some version of green that goes on in that elevator is horrible. So anyway, I'm going to head back to as shot. And I'm going to say the only difference, well, there's one more, but it's even more esoteric and different to find. The only big difference between opening a photo that is actually a raw photo is that you have all these choices of light that you can shift to versus, and you guys don't do this with me, it's just a demo. So I'm going to just show this to you for a second. If I go instead, got to stop your share to go to bridge. Why does Zoom not let me shift to bridge? Okay. If I want to open a JPEG in RAW, we'll do this later, but I'm going to right click and go to open in camera raw. So now it's opening in RAW. This is a JPEG that I'm opening with the raw tools. And if you go over here, sorry, in the color, you'll see that it doesn't give me those choices. It only gives me a shot or auto, but it doesn't give me all the rest of the choices. I have to choose, if I want to change it, I have to change it myself. Okay, so that says shot. And that's what my camera shot. And this is what my computer says that it thinks it should be. And again, it could or not be right, or you could like one or more. Or you can just change it yourself and go, no, I think it was more this, or it was more that, or it was more this, or it was more that, right? Anyway, I'm going to cancel because I'm not working on that photo right now. But I just wanted to show you one of the only overt differences in the tools is that a DNG or any RAW will give you the choice to change these presets, but you don't really need the presets as long as you move them yourself. Anyway, so say that you like the auto better for some reason or another, or if you want it to be even more yellow, more whatever, there's this thing that you can do also. So let me go back to as shot, which is this little eyedropper right here. you can change the color balance by clicking on this eyedropper once. When it goes black behind it, you know you have an eyedropper in your hand. And you can go choose any color that you think should be either white or neutral gray. You guys still don't know what neutral gray is, so it's harder one to find. But sometimes you can say this should be white, and it might be right or wrong, because if you think this should be white and you click on white, you'll get a certain color correction happening, which is looking a little bit more like what the auto is saying, or this should be white. Now, how many times have you clicked on something that you said this should be white, and you're not aware that in truth it was maybe off-white? Or you know how there, when you go to see the many whites that exist in a paint shop, there's like 10, 25 versions of white, some that have more yellow, some have more blue, some have more pink. So who knows what real white they used in here and how the light was falling on it. But if you think that this should be white, but what if I think this should be white and I click on that? Then the whole computer adjusts to the fact that if this should be white, then this is what you need to be seeing. See how wrong it is? Or if you say the red, the blue should be white, I'm going to click on some of the blue here, and I say the blue should be white, and it adjusts to make it all really weird. So you should try to find something that truly should be neutral. Now a neutral color would also be gray. Now this building here isn't really white. If you click on it, it's actually not supposed to be white. It's supposed to be a bitter tone, but this is a bit more like what my camera did. My camera took on the environment that's everywhere, and it chose a bit more, making this a little bit more the white tone. So if I go to from now to as shot, you'll see that that's pretty much the same choice, versus the computer is choosing this as white, and so it's making it a bit more yellow. Is one right? Is one wrong? A lot of post-processing is subjective. It's your choice. How do you think the image looks better? Especially if it's not your choice and you weren't there, how would you know which one is more right or wrong, right? So anyway, you can click around with this eyeball, this dropper on different things, and it'll adjust it until you like it, or you can move your sliders around a little more until you like it. And then that's the color that you choose. Now I kind of like it to be a tiny bit warmer, so I am going to actually go with either choosing this as white or the auto, which was doing that as well, but I kind of like it even better at this point. And if I look at what's happening, it's adding more yellow. And I know that it was sunset, so that's why I'm probably liking it more, because my brain is telling me what it truly was. So it gave me not only a bit more yellow, but it turned it a little bit more reddish, a little bit more magenta, which is basically a combination of red and magenta gives me a bit more orange, which is that orange light that is a bit more sunsetty. But it's so subtle that if you look at it now and before, had you not noticed the immediate change, you might not notice the difference. I'm going to turn off that little eyedropper so that I can stop having it in my hand. So you click on it once to turn it on, one to turn it off. And now you don't have the eyedropper anymore, and you leave it somewhere. Now, what if you want to see the before and after? Let's go and see what the change was. It's pretty subtle. I'm going to head down to this little box right here, and I'm going to click. Now it's showing me the before and the after. The before and the after. Okay, so this is what my DNG opened up as with the as shot version, and this is what it looks like with me saying, well, I want to change the color balance a bit because I think it's a bit too green or too blue. Because this, if you now pay attention, you might notice that it's a little bit more bluish. It's mainly what changed. And it's looking a little bit more less blue, let's say, which means more yellow. So if you have more yellow, it's less blue, more blue, it's less yellow. It's back and forth on the slider. Same with the orange and green. So right now we have a little bit more magenta in here, or basically less green, and we have a bit more yellow, basically less blue. Does that make sense, you guys? Are you all good with that? Now you might not like this, you might like it differently, and that's the whole point of post-processing. This is in a way where it gets more artsy. It's a difference between doing what you want and doing, like not doing what you want, but reading it the way that you read an image versus reading it the way the camera read it. And I assure you, had you taken the same exact picture with 3 other cameras, you would have had a slightly subtle, another slightly more subtle difference there too. So I'm going to go for this correction. Now, this correction works for me on my screen, But it could be that your screen is set up in a way that's not color calibrated and you're going, ew, now it's looking really yellow, or ew, it's looking really magenta. Because what you are seeing is you're seeing through me showing my screen with you, and your screen might be set very differently than mine. So you guys remember going into TV stores or places like that where they have a whole range of TVs showing the same program? And each TV brand or model suddenly shows it a little bit different in color. Have you had that experience that the same thing is showing up in two different screens and it looks different? So that's what right now, if you get serious about photography, you need to buy a color calibration tool, which here I'm pointing to one that I have, where you're going to calibrate your screen. It's going to be very hard otherwise for you to look at a color and know that if it looks like it should look, if you print it, is going to look good or bad, because you might then send this to print and you might discover that it comes back where your reds are looking a little bit a little bit pink, and your blues are looking a bit purplish, and it might be that your screen was off the whole time and you corrected for your screen, and then the print comes back and it looks weird, and it's because your screen is skewed. So this is called a color calibration tool. It's going to cost $300 and upwards of that, up into the thousands, depending what you buy. So you have to be serious about this to really want to spend on that. And once you do spend on something like that, then you just put it in front of your screen and you go through all the motions of a tool, and it kind of calibrates all your screens. So yes, by the way, the new computer lab that they set up for us in room 3, all the screens are calibrated. It's amazing right now. It's looking gorgeous. Okay, yes, Rebecca?
Well, right now, my screen looks very similar to your screen, but it's the Zoom screen.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's probably different?
I don't know how it's projecting onto yours. I can only see how it's projecting onto mine. I just know that I have 2 monitors, and one of them is calibrated, the other one isn't. It's an older one, and I haven't bothered. I just put my tools on it, and just looking at my same image, and if I have it in duplicate in both monitors, it looks a little bit different, right? It's not horribly off, but it is off. And whatever I'm projecting might look different to you than it looks to me, based, like, if you could stand here with your computer, we could compare them. But for you, the way it's projecting onto your screen is how your screen is showing it. So although I'm saying it went more yellow, and yours, it might have gone even more yellow than on mine, right? So you just have to adjust it based on what you think is right. So that's why I always say, don't put your, I never, and I promise I will never teach you. I will never teach you to say, set your temperature at 8400 and the tint at +16. Why? I'm going to let you choose it at what looks good for you to you, because that's how you later will look at your own photos. And I don't teach you to make a great photo of one of my photos. What's the point? I teach you to use the tool, right? And so sometimes people go, why don't you have a step-by-step handout? Well, that's not how I teach, because a step-by-step handout only teaches you how to fix that one photo, but it doesn't teach you to use the tool. If I tell you, open this, go to that, set it to 800, open that, go to that, set it to 200, do you learn to use the tool? As far as I'm concerned, no. You just learn to make that one good photo. As far as I'm concerned, I'm teaching you about color balance so that later you can open one of your photos and understand that that's what you're changing when you use this tool. Does that make sense? So it might be a little bit, it's a choice, right? Yeah, I'm not, otherwise it's a bit more like paint by colors. If you just say, do this, do that, then you end up with a great photo. And I respect people who want to teach that way, that I think that I'm going to teach you to understand the tool so that hopefully you can then apply it. It's a bit harder because you might not walk out with a perfect photo when you walk out of my class, but hopefully you walk with a better understanding of the tool so that you can apply it to your images, which is why it's so important for me, you guys, that you do work on things during the week and post in the Padlet your own work, okay? That way you can test this. And I really, really, really want you to use these tools and show me how it's working for you as part of this class. I can't force you to do that. Homework is up to you to do. I highly recommend that you do homework to show me that you were able to color balance a photo on your own. Okay. So now I want to get out of the before and after mode. And so I need to click on this about 5 more times, because every time there's a way to do it, but the easiest way is to just go through the methods. When I clicked on before and after, it's showing me left and right, before and after. If I click one more time, it shows me before and after with a line in the middle that when there's a subtle change, it's harder to see. But look at, now that you see them next to each other, you can see how blue that white was. That white was very blue. It was harder to tell before, but look how blue it was. Now, bluish green. And now look at the tone it has. Now you can say it's a bit yellow. Neither one is very neutral. I think I went yellow on this, because a bit more yellow, because I like the fact that it's that I remember that it was sunset. But other than that, I could have gone a bit more subtle, but that's the color that white was before, and you couldn't have noticed it so much when it was in before and after, but now you see it better, that it's really crossing the line. Now, when you click one more time, it'll do a before and after up and bottom, which helps when you have a landscape image. And then you click one more time and it draws a line in the middle, which again helps if you have a landscape image. And there you go, you have the top and bottom. So it goes through the 4 versions, and then the 5th click leaves you back in your after, and now you can keep working. Okay, so it's like 1, 2, 3. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. I clicked in the middle, which I shouldn't have because I wasn't looking. So before and after, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you go back to the after. Okay. So that's the word color. But it's a different color that we're talking about. Okay. If you all got color, if you all changed your settings, if you feel that you're better off now, and you like it, then give me yes. I did something wrong here, which is that I shifted backwards. Never mind. My befores and after are a bit messed up right now, because when you open them up, you click on this and it shifts the settings, and now it shifted to that. My before and after are looking the same. And that's because I clicked in the lines that appeared in the middle, but never mind. So now I've got my before and after. There we go. That's my before and after fixed. Okay. All right. Any question, you guys who are not here? Shamuel, people who didn't say yes. Mary Ellen, are y'all good with what we did with color balance? Okay. I'm going to clear your feedback. Perfect. All right. Now back to what's the other color? And normally I start teaching you going light, light, light. But since I just had you guys do color in Photoshop, I'm just showing you how to do color in Camera Raw if you wanted to do it here before we head into Photoshop. So we're going to head over to the color mixer. And when you open the color mixer, you have hue, saturation, luminance, or all. Now, let's head over to hue, since hue is what we changed in the Photoshop. Okay. And then over here we have, you can change just the color. And if you do that and that, suddenly we're looking very similar to how we were looking in Photoshop, right? HSL, hue, saturation, and light, or you can have it shifted to color. And suddenly, doesn't this look like what I had shown you before in Photoshop? Or pretty similar to that? Where if we go and click on the yellows, for example, then I'm going to change the yellows. And if I look in the image at what used to be yellow, right there, it's changing just the yellow. You see that? I'm going to double click on that to bring it to 0. Had I been in HSL and stayed on hue, then I could go over here to the word yellows, and I could change the yellow over here. And again, the yellows are changing to orange. I double click. About the reds, I'm going to change the reds to pinks. But there's a difference here in that it's a bit more restricted than it was in Photoshop. Like if I move my reds, I can make them bright pink or orange, but it's not like I can turn it blue. because I'm not going through the whole color wheel. Here, I'm restricted to tones that are relatively near the wheel to red, to the left or to the right of the color wheel of red. So I'm going through orange and red, but it's not shifting it all the way to purple and blue. Does that make sense? It's a bit different. If I head over to color and I choose my reds, again, see how I'm restricted to pinks and oranges? So what we're doing here is basically the same as if I'm in HSL under hue. Okay. Now, so it's a bit more subtle. It doesn't allow you to go into those weird deep blues, which never look that good anyway, to turn to red into blue because it's too far off the color wheel. But that's what this is already restricting you to do. So if I make my reds pink and I go to my yellows and I make them green, and if I go to my blues and make them purple, you're great. That's a blue. Well, that's more like a cyan. So if I go here over to the aquas and make them green. So by the time I'm finished changing everything that's here, that's a pretty big set of changes, right? And I had some oranges and I'm going to make them green. Okay, so basically I'm changing all of my magentas are going to be now something else. And so I've changed, I think the greens are the only thing that stayed the same. So there was not much green in this image to start with. And you're like, but there's green right there. No, but that wasn't green. That was yellow. So when I'm flipping my greens and not much is happening, why is that? Because it's my original image greens that it's trying to change. And although I see green and green now, these are the greens that got converted from a red. But my green, if I flip it around back and forth, nothing's going to happen much to this image. Why? I'm going to go ahead and double click on everything to set them all back to 0. And if you remember this image, how it started, I could actually have just gone in and undone that. There's not much green here. And what we know should be green, which are these little plants, they look so dark, it's hard to change them. So there's a bit of green in there. It's like an olive green. So now with everything back to 0, if I try to move my greens and I look over there, I discover that that wasn't green enough for this to really affect it. It's probably more like a deep blue or something. Now I could grab, this is the equivalent to that dropper. I could click on this little guy right there and point specifically to that tone of green right there. And then it would be flipping it to the best of its ability. Does that make sense? So watch. So I go ahead and flip everything back, double click everything back to 0. Double click to get it all zeroed out. Yeah. And then when you grab this tool, okay, and you know it's been grabbed, if when you move away from it, it stays black. And this, by the way, showed up down here. Then you can go to a color. You click and drag there and the slider appears and it lets you change it in the moment. And if you look to the right, now this isn't sliding just the aquas, it's also sliding the aquas and the blues because the computer is recognizing that both of those tones are in this color. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to make that, green. I'm going to turn it into green. It was a bit like a light blue and I've left it green or aqua green. Then I'm going to go to my reds and I'm going to click on red and I'm going to just move left and right. And it goes basically from pink to orange, but if you look at the sliders, it's moving the reds, but it's also moving the orange a bit because there was a little bit of orange in that red. Does that make sense? So now I'm leaving it at pink. I've taught Camera Raw many times. I have rarely gotten to teach you this tool. One thing I want you to know why people are wondering how come people come back to class is I'm trying to teach you different things in each class. Even if you've done Camera Raw so many times, I usually start from the beginning and it's like, let me choose you a couple different things. Color. Because there's one new thing in color that didn't exist before. So anyway, here I'm managing to change a lot of these tones, showing you how to do it. How do you see the effect of this change? And only this change, only the color mixer change. Watch. See here, this little eyeball? I can toggle it on and off. That's equivalent to that toggle in Photoshop where you see the changes. I'm toggling this on and off. If I go back to the before and after, this takes me to the complete before and after. So it's all my befores, not, so it's also the blue light. So that's from where we started to where we are now. It's not just the color mixer changes, but even the initial change. So the before and after is like nothing done to the image to a lot done to the image. So if instead, so I'm gonna have to cycle through all 5 of them. There's a shortcut to get off of that. If you only want to see the color mixer changes, you turn that eyeball off. If you only want to see the color changes, I turn that eyeball off. So the changes that I do in the color mixer, if I turn off the original color, see how the colors also look different? So they're both affecting each other now. That one and that one are both affecting the final changes. All right. How's it going, you guys? If everything is good, give me a yes. I haven't had us do any screenshots yet. Why don't we go over here and do a screenshot of the HSL color mixer adjustment, which is one that I haven't done in a long time in class. So let's do a screenshot of this in Camera Raw.
I just saw a hand float up my screen.
Did someone raise their hand?
And then they took, I think it was Colette.
Maybe you didn't do a raised hand. If you did like a hand that floated up and down, I didn't see it. So if you had a question, and remember right at the bottom of all those choices, there's the actual fixed raised hand. Thanks for warning me. So hold on, let me post this, Colette, and then I'll get to you with whatever your question is, but let me just post this so that I don't forget.
I'd never seen that before. That was cute.
Camera Raw, color mixer. Set at HSL is similar-ish to the color, to the hue saturation adjustment layer in Photoshop that we used on the tulips. I'm saying similar-ish because as you can see, I'm not having the same choices. It's different, but it's similar-ish. Okay, yes. Colette, what's your question? You're muted.
I didn't have a question. I hit that button by accident.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thanks though for calling my attention to it, Rebecca, because it could have been a question and it was the wrong button. All right, let me clear your answers. And if everyone has been able to work with the color mixer in Camera Raw to change the colors, again, we're doing all this without masking. So many years ago, not even so many years ago, but you couldn't do this at all without masking. It was the only way you could separate the green color from the red color. You would have to isolate it from everything else. And then you could change the green to red, the red to blue. But the tools have advanced enough that you can be a bit more specific about the color now with just this tool, and you save yourself from a lot of masking, and you leave masking for where masking is still needed. Now, for those of you who haven't done masking, don't worry, we're going to get to that. But I'm explaining for everyone else who's come to my classes for years, we've been doing masking, and we're still going to do masking. But for color, there's tools that can isolate each color a bit better than they used to. So we'll get to the place where we still need a mask when it just isn't changeable enough. But this is actually a pretty good solution. So that's my reminder that we have 15 minutes before class is over. So I want to show you a couple more things before class is over about this. And so for homework, you're going to have to open, if you don't have your own Camera Raw images, then another one of my Camera Raw images, and work on adjusting colors with these two settings, the color and the color mixer in Camera Raw. Okay, so the color panel settings and the color mixer. There's also color grading. There's even more I just haven't got to, but right now we're just working with those two. Now, the next thing I want to show you is I want to save these settings because I'm going to change them. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick little snapshot of this. So head over here to the right side of these tools and click on that, the thing under the eyeballs. That feature there is called a snapshot. Click on snapshots. That little icon there is the snapshots. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fix in time the changes that we've made. So don't worry if it's right or wrong. I need you to do this because now we're going to change them. And I want you to be able to get out of that and still conserve these changes. So over here where it says snapshots, click on this little icon one time to create a new snapshot. And we're going to call this one color mixer HSL. Oh, I'm going to delete what was there. Color mixer HSL settings, whatever, that's fine. Say okay to that. And you'll see later why we did this. For now, just do it. And we're going to come back to this and we're going to keep working with this. Include probably looking at the time, we might need to keep working with this next week. Okay, did everyone get their snapshot? Give me a yes if you were able to get a snapshot. When we're done with the snapshot, let's head back to the top sliders. The little, again, those little slider, that same icon we've seen many times, that's all our original settings of the basic workflow settings. Go back there and we're back to where we were. Okay, the reason I want us to do this is because I'm going to now have us double click on everything to bring it all back to 0. So if any changes that were made, you're now erasing them. Double click so that everything is back to 0. Okay.
How do you get back to your photo from the snapshot?
Okay, up here at the top, right? I'm trying to get the right there. Here we go. That's the tool that gets you back to the snapshots, to the basic edits. Okay. So now I want to show you something new. So double click on everything to zero it all out. And now this is the new tool. This is the newest tool that just got incorporated, a month and a half ago or so, point color. So this is even more fine-tuned than before. And it's similar to this one. I'm going to click on point color. And you're going to click this little eyedropper tool. Okay. And now we're going to point to a specific tone. So remember that little green that was hard to pick out before? I'm going to click on that little bit of green. Might need to zoom in a little bit to be able to pick on that green because it didn't really pick green. It picked yellow. You see that? Let's try again. Let's click on that green. Now it really got that green. You see that? When I was further away and I clicked on it, I thought I had clicked on it, but it gave me the yellow. But now I had to zoom in a bit more so that I could actually pick that green. Okay, and so there we are. There's that green. Let me click that, get your yeses. Did you all find a way to, in the point color, pick that exact green? Yeah. Oops, it's already been sampled. Okay. So now let's keep it there a little bit. And now when we want to change that green, and by the way, this is a new tool. See how it says early access? It's a new tool, very, very new, that's allowing for amazing color that just wasn't available before. And now I can either move this around that way, which is kind of crazy, but you can. I'm going to bring it back. Or you can just go down to the hue saturation and make it a different color. Now, again, I'm restricted to things that are very similar to it, but say that I'm trying to make it orange. Well, if you look at your image, okay, so watch my screen. Don't try to do it yet. If this was the green, keep your eyes on this area of that green. Keep your eyes on that. If I now move my hue saturation to the green, what else is changing? Is it just the green changing?
No.
No, the yellow is changing, right? And I'm sure here and there something else. So guess what? We just learned this in Photoshop. here is what that range thing that I was showing you in Photoshop looks like in Camera Raw. So if I want to restrict it to just being that section right there, this is what those tools look like. This is the internal stuff that you restrict, and this is that range. So I'm taking away the possible oranges from that change and other greens for that change. So I'm just restricting it only to that olive tone. So now when I do that, it's changing less of all the other stuff. Does that make sense? So we are restricting it just like we did in Photoshop. So this that wasn't possible in Camera Raw before, you're able to do now in Photoshop. We still can't make it purple because ultimately it didn't make much sense, but I can make that area much. So the biggest change I can make is to make it this bright color here. And I can go ahead and make it be as bright as you can. And when I look back, I'm discovering that some of this is changing into a bright green, but then I'm leaving behind some pieces because I've restricted it too much. So I need to try to open it a little bit more, or one way or the other. So I'm going to open it to include some of these more, which means I'll be changing some of the greens as well. But now I'm trying to make sure that I didn't restrict it as much so that I can try to keep getting some other tones. I could maybe move it into.
Diana, I don't have those sliders. Do you think my raw is, I have 17.5.
You don't have them under as you scroll down.
Oh, let me just see. Maybe I didn't scroll far enough.
Because first we see that, and you have to kind of scroll down to see the
No,
word.
there's nothing below that, the
Okay,
range.
so then did you see this word range?
Oh, it's the arrow.
Triangle
Okay.
there?
Oh, there it is, the triangle. Yeah,
Triangle. So
got
that
it.
might happen to
Thank
others,
you.
yeah, because I had it open automatically and I didn't.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so you might want to go ahead and restrict it, the luminance tones that it's working with. You might want to add more on the range of stuff. But anyway, basically you can work on this a little bit more, see if you can include a bit more there. I've managed to include more of that green now that I had left behind because I went a little bit into the greener areas. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Did I just click on the yellow? Yeah. I was up here. I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so now I am able to change those a little bit more in detail, which I wouldn't have been able to do before. Okay, so whoops, got a couple minutes left. So go ahead and there's a lot more before. If you had like someone's skin was a little bit too red around the cheeks, it was really hard to separate that red from the skin red. Now you can go in here and you can really isolate it to that little part of the skin red. So this point color tool is pretty crazy. I'm not showing it to you in the best of its abilities, but it's like 100 steps forward as to what it used to be, what you can do with color with this little point color setting. I'm showing it to you in something that no matter what we've done, we've not been able to change that. That's been like, we haven't changed it at all. And so it was such a small detail that you might have noticed that we hadn't been able to change that color. But it's a change that is a very welcome change. So look at my eyeball before and after. Let me move it in a little bit to zoom it in. And this was my before kind of dank green, and now it's my after. And see how very little other colors are changing. Like the yellow, the red, the yellows around it are staying the same over here. And only my deep green is changing. And that would have been without a mask. We could have always done this with masking, but it would have taken a while to mask all that. Now we're able to do it just with these color tools, which is pretty amazing. Just things
Is
become.
it cheating to just move the circle around?
No, you can also do it with that. Yeah.
Because that I found much faster to see what the changes are.
Yeah, you can move the circle around. You can move the sliders. You can do different, you know, Play
For
around.
however subtle you want to make your changes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. You can move higher up, and basically moving these things here is moving your sliders anyway. Like if I move
Mhm.
a circle here, you're moving the hue saturation. Like if you notice that if I do that, these are the ones that are moving. And if I move,
Right.
up, so it's a more visual way of doing the same thing, so to say. And I like visual ways of doing it, but you're basically moving the sliders in a way that's easier to visualize when you're doing it that way, but you're moving the sliders anyway. What you want to do by hand is the range, because that doesn't change. This is to change how much the
Mhm.
rest of the colors that are near it get changed. And this is what we spent all our time doing in Photoshop in the color adjustment tool. Okay. So this is completely new to everyone who's been doing all of these Photoshop classes with me. This point color, I think I showed it one time in the summer class when it had just first come out. I think I might have pointed to it, but I didn't really spend time with it. Also because this time I adjusted the way I've taught it by showing it to you first in Photoshop, where it's a bit simpler. There's not 2,100 versions and choices of it. And now I'm showing it to you in here. It is a bit different. As I said, in Photoshop, you could turn this color into purple, which here you're limited to colors that are similar-ish enough to it in that color wheel. So it gives you a truer change. In Photoshop, the concern that I've always had with saturation is since you can turn it from, green into purple, it turns into a purple that isn't very real. There's a different way of changing a green into a purple that is real, and you can do that in color adjustments in Photoshop, but it isn't through the hue saturation panel. It's actually changing the pixels differently, and it's the solid color. So we're going to talk about that later. But this is more realistic, and that it only lets you choose it within range, that when you print this photo, it'll still be looking good. It won't look like this weird kind of color change. Does that make sense? Now, let's head over to the snapshots and we'll be done because we have 2 minutes left and I want to make sure you know how to close this up. Let's go to the snapshots over here. And just so that we, so this is the point color tool inside of the color mixer. So we're going to snapshots, and now let's create a new snapshot, and I'm going to click on that there. And this one, I'm going to call it color mixer slash point color. Okay, so it's after we've done the point color to it. The other one when we did the HSL change. So now, if we go, that's what we did with the color mixer. This is what we did with the point color. So we have the two versions memorized, so we can come back to that. Does that make sense? And go back and forth. And one isn't better than the other. It's just different tools. And in reality, in this photo, you would have combined all of it, right? You would have combined changing one or the other or whatever you're doing. But here we're just being able to isolate what we did with one and what we're doing with the other. Okay.
Deanna, how do you get to the snapshot again?
You click on this little icon that appears after the eyeball right there. Bunch of little, but a bunch of little boxes, like it's all the different snapshots you can make of it. And then you click on this tool to make a new snapshot and you change the color. You change the name to tell you what you've done. Okay. Then we're going to go back to the save, and it's a lot of information I thrust on you today, and class is over. So let me show you how to save this and be done. We can open this photo now back into Photoshop. We could, but we're not going to. Class is over. Keep this file to keep working on it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say done. And when you say just done, the image closes itself. And if I were to be able to go to Bridge, which for some reason Zoom is not letting me, so I need to go to Bridge and then share again. Oh, I need to do a screenshot. Can you guys do a screenshot of the snapshots tool? So when I go back into Bridge, here's my adjusted boats. And as you can see now, it has little sliders in there. See those little sliders? Let me go a bit bigger. There it is. Those little sliders imply that it's been adjusted, and what it's showing me is the new version. And I guess I lifted in the version where I only changed the point color. If I double click on it again now to open it again, it opens exactly where I was. Let me just, so that it's a bit more visible, I'm going to change it back to the snapshot of the HSL where the color goes red. And now I'm going to say done. That way in Bridge, that image will appear as, God, this is hopefully next, it does it sometimes, and this time it's doing it every time that it doesn't let me go back to Bridge. So now see how my colors are appearing in Bridge as pink, because that's what I did with the other change. So it'll show you the latest changes that you've made to it. Okay. So if I were to now do what I did before, which is right click and eliminate all these changes, it would just go back to being the original photo that I took. That's it. But by having these changes there, all of these are completely non-destructive changes, because what that means is I can take them away, as we did, you saw, I can change the sliders back to 0, and I have my original photo again. So that's a non-destructive. Any change done in Camera Raw is always non-destructive. It never affects the pixels completely. It's just kind of a filter, if you want, put on top of it saying, well, now my red is pink and now my blue is green, and that kind of thing, which is what we did both in Photoshop and in Camera Raw. We made non-destructive changes. Okay. So my tulips here are changed non-destructively. In my PSD, I could just go in and turn the eyeball off, and that would now be back to being those colors, right? And then this one, I visually see the changed version, but if I open it up and just change things again, save them as snapshots, I can always go back to it, to the different versions of it. All right, let's do, I forgot to do a snapshot screenshot, so I'm going to open this up to show you the snapshot screenshot. But sorry, I was trying to move this over so it's part of the same screenshot. And then I'm gonna say done. And this one, I'm gonna save that as well if you haven't yet saved the changes. And we're going to close that one. And this one, you can save changes or not. This was more to show you and an easier example. I'm going to save the changes anyway and close that. And then I'm going to head over to here and I'm going to post this last one. Take a snapshot. Choose the snapshot tool on the far right toolbar to freeze in time the changes at that exact moment. And then so that you can come back to those choices. So that's what a snapshot is. Okay. All right. So guys, your homework, and I'm going to, you can go if you want to go, but I'm just adding it in here because you forget, is going to be now open a raw image and use the color balance palette and the color mixer palette to adjust color mixer palette, both HSL mode and point color mode, to modify the colors of a raw image in a non-destructive manner. Okay. So I want you to do that and post, well, and then of course, post your work in Padlet. Now, I'm not going to keep sending you emails with what your homework is. This is the place that I'm going to be posting any homework, but also just remember, sometimes I have been known to forget to write what the homework is. I'm telling it to you. But I just wanted to show you that when you go to your handouts, which hopefully you practiced and learned how to do, Over here, you have the link to go to the Padlet, okay? So that you can always see in there what I wrote. Here you have the recordings of last week and the summary of last week. I'm not going to send you an email with this like I did last week. Now it's up to you to find it. So if you don't remember how to find it, go to the email I sent you last week and practice how to do that. And one more thing, in the email that I sent you this morning, telling you to come to class, where is it? Zooling for today's Photoshop class. I am making this even, used to say I only would send the link, but now I'm also sending you the video of how to access the class files and the Padlet link as well. So you got this one today. Don't throw this email away. If you don't remember how to get to the place where you have the Padlet links, then here you have in this email, save this email, and you have how to get back to the class files and how to get to the Padlet link. And then on Friday morning, how to get to the class. Okay, I keep adding. And also a little reminder that even if you can't make it to the whole day, to please show up for part of it, like Zoraida, who was up in Rome or heading to Rome. She was in Puglia. Anyway, so guys, I'm adapting my message to have more and more information. So once a week you get this email, but don't delete it, because then during the week when you want to get to there, come back to this one and you can get to it. Okay. So hopefully there's a lot to adjust, a lot to digest. Those of you who have been in the class for a while, take a gander at these tools with some new information and try some new things. Okay. I'll see you guys on Friday.
Thank you, Diana.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And bye.